Now we're recording.
All right, great. So I'll give the spiel again. Welcome everybody to the Alternative Energy Committee meeting for the town of Cohasset in accordance with Massachusetts law. We're able to do this virtually. This meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws. And the only key thing is if we're to do any votes, we have to do a roll call vote. But thank you for joining. We have some great guest speakers today. And as usual, interesting topics to discuss. So why don't we'll start in accordance with the agenda with introductions. I'll start first, and then if other members of the committee could introduce themselves, followed by Ginny, and then our guests, that would be great. And Ginny, you're going to monitor the room to see if anybody else comes in?
Yes, I'm doing that right now.
Okay, but just make sure you recognize them so we don't get any Zoom
Yep,
bombers.
I'll continue to do that.
Perfect, thanks. All right, my name is Tanya Bodell. I'm the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee, and I have been in this position, I think, since 2019. Prior to that, I was the chair from 2010 to 2013. Sorry, Steve, say that again. It was hard to hear you.
My name is Steve Wenner. I'm a long-term member of the committee.
Tom Daly, new member of the committee.
I'm Barbara. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm Barbara Russell. I'm an enthusiastic member of the committee.
My name is Josh Staunton. I've been on the committee a couple of years.
I'm Martha again, Jimmy, and I'm a new member. Also enthusiastic.
Debbie Cook. I am a longer term member.
Does that leave me, I guess, as the guest or so? So my name is Russ Ellis. I'm with Positive Energy. I've been in the sustainability industry for most of my career. I'm founding publisher of Architect magazine, EcoStructure, architectural lighting, and have led a lot of conversations, discussions, and drives on sustainable cities. And currently helped start a company that we work in the energy sector in terms of energy storage and EV charging. And I'm happy to maybe just share with you what my knowledge is. And if you have any questions or anything, I'm happy to sort of answer anything that might be on your mind regarding those areas.
Great, fabulous, Russ. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing your thoughts. Taylor?
Yep, Taylor Clark, Harvard master's candidate, doing a project for the town of Cohasset.
And I'm Ginny LeClaire. I'm the sustainability coordinator consultant for the town of Cohasset and the town of Hingham.
All right, perfect. Thank you. First order of business is approval of the October 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. Thank you to our combined Barbara Russell and Debbie Cook for putting those together. Those have been circulated. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review them, but why don't we just take a moment, if you haven't, to quickly refresh your memories. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Are there any changes or suggestions?
I have one small change, but I don't think it's really worth going into the meeting minutes if no one else does. Just my name under summary of action items has an E on the end of LeClaire.
Oh no, okay, we can fix
the
that.
Only change under summary of action items.
All right, perfect. We'll make that adjustment subject to the adjustment of correcting Ginny's name under list of action items. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I moved.
All right,
Second.
thank you. Sorry, who did the second? Okay, thank you, Tom. Woo! Enthusiastic new members that you are. So we have a motion to approve by Martha, a second from Tom. We need to do a roll call vote, and if you were unable to attend, you should give your name and say abstain. But I'll start. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Josh
Debbie
Johnson,
Cook,
aye.
aye. Oop.
Yeah.
Martha Gangemi, aye.
Barbara Russell, I.
Aye.
Steve, do you want to say your name and,
Steve Winter, aye.
okay, great. And Josh?
Oh, I already said it, but
Okay.
Josh Johnson, aye.
Okay, perfect. Great. The meeting minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. We will get those posted. And so Russ, we're very glad you're here. We listed everybody who was on the email from Positive Energy, but we're happy to have you here visiting with us, and we are looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah.
So please take the floor.
Thanks. I mean, I could run through a presentation. I mostly don't. I mostly speak, but I'm happy to sort of share with you some visuals. But they're really just sort of reinforcing some of the issues that are sort of confronting electrification as it relates to EV charging for the most part. It might make sense for me to kind of give you a little bit about who we are as a company and how we got to where we are. So most of our team members have come from various different technology companies, primarily SpaceX, Tesla, NLX, Nextera, one of the largest utility companies, Proterra. And then many of us came from a company called Romeo Power, where we manufactured lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. While we were there, the company was procured by Borg Warner, which makes every component or part that goes into a vehicle. And at that time, they only wanted the battery. And so we spun off Positive Energy with a focus on energy storage and EV charging. And so we continue to do energy storage as a part of our key core competence. Those projects tend to take significantly longer time frames. They're really about sort of creating greater resilience from the grid and the ability to sort of move energy at inexpensive times or at less usage times into large batteries, and then have them distributed during the time frames that make the most sense. We've been awarded a number of different projects. Saturday, we recently were awarded a new project to build a microgrid and an energy storage system for a hospital in Haiti. So we're currently working on that project as well, making them less reliant on any kind of diesel or things of that nature. The other core competence that we have is in EV charging, and we manufacture some of the best technologies that are around in electric vehicle charging and infrastructure. They're both level 2 and level 3 chargers, and I know that you have installed some various different types of charging infrastructure right now. I saw that you were gathering some information on operational costs and what that looks like in terms of excuse me, utilization. I was going to promise myself I wasn't going to cough, but I can't make that promise. So on the we manufacture a really quite unique technology in that space. And I would say that the greatest challenges that are sort of confronting the EV world in terms of infrastructure and installing electric vehicle charging infrastructure is really energy capacity. And so we work with a lot of municipalities. Many of them have bought fleets or have fleets in which that they've started to acquire vehicles, electric vehicles for their fleets and or for public charging. But the challenge is what is the energy capacity that you have at your locations to be able to serve that. And often, even after purchasing a vehicle or so, many municipalities are realizing that there's just not, they don't have enough energy, new services required. And in many cases, those services take between 12 to 18 months to sort of get up and running on that front. So even the best intentions of sort of moving into a more, a place in which that there's more access to electric vehicle charging infrastructure, sometimes there are various different challenges that sort of get imposed on that. One of the things we've done to address that issue on our hardware side is that we physically built a technology in the hardware that allows us to derate it for the available capacity. So we actually produce the highest speed level 2 chargers that are out there. Many of the ones that you have right now are running on like 7.4 kilowatts or so. Ours are 19.2 kilowatt chargers. They run on 80 amps at 208 volts. So municipalities need to have, for each charger, 80 amps of incremental available power and a breaker that can sort of service that kind of load. So it gets a little bit complex, but if you only had 60 amps or if you only had 40 amps, we're able to derate the charger actually at the charger level and then run it at 9.6 or 15 kilowatts in terms of fairly high speed level 2 charging. And then when a time frame comes in which that you have incremental power, you're able to just upgrade the service and change the switch. So you don't have to rip and replace, which is really what's happening a lot right now. A lot of the early generation electric vehicle chargers are running at a slow pace in terms of what their overall delivery is. But to get to the next level, you have to, people are having to rip and replace them. I would say that the probably biggest surprise that, and I don't know whether you have installed any level 3s yet, but the biggest challenge on moving from level 2 to level 3 that outside of significantly increases in power is that people don't realize that they're about 25 times the cost starting off at for a level 3 charger than it is for a level 2. So we actually have recently won a 4-year contract with Sourcewell, which allows municipalities to procure our products, software, and our services without having to go to bid. So it's a government entity that allows municipalities to procure that. Our level 2 chargers come in at the Sourcewell discount at under $2,000, which is fairly inexpensive for a high-speed charger. The challenge is what is the cost to sort of install it or bring the power to the parking spots that are necessary, and whether it can serve that particular area. I don't know whether your municipality is considering both on the fleet side obligations that they have in terms of moving either public works vehicles and or police, fire, parking into electric vehicles, and how that charging infrastructure would work, or how you might consider charging those vehicles too. And the way that we mostly work with folks is trying to understand what those use cases are, because I don't need to have somebody have a level 3 charger if you don't need it. Sometimes everybody wants the biggest and the best and the fastest, but if you had a truck that was a 200 kilowatt battery truck, and it came in from the lot at 4 p.m. and didn't leave till 6 a.m, you have more than ample time to charge that with a level 2 charger, rather than spending $50,000 to $100,000 on a level 3 charger that would charge it in a much faster capacity. So really helping people think through what those elements are as it relates to their fleets, school buses, and public charging on that side as well. I mentioned that both our chargers have unique technology. Our level 3 chargers are quite unique. They're the only ones that are made in the United States that are vehicle to grid. So they're utility companies really like them. They're the future of where energy management is going to go. The vehicle to grid portion can be implemented immediately or at a later date. So it could be added to the charger at a later time frame. And what it does is it creates a bidirectional charger. So it allows, and where the application tends to be a little bit in public, but more in fleet related areas, particularly for school buses. It's an incredible application. And And what it does is it allows the energy company, if they're seeing a peak come in, they can go into the vehicles, borrow the energy for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then return that energy back when the peak has subsided. So it allows kind of a back and forth transfer of energy, and using the vehicles as a power plant that can do a whole number of things. We're working with one of the largest utility companies, NextEra in Miami-Dade County, on a project that is a microgrid project in which that the fleet school bus program is meant to, the bidirectional aspect of it is for, it's meant to be an emergency school when there's a hurricane, so that if all of a sudden when you have an event that takes place and you have to send some people to, like, okay, everybody go to Brown Elementary School, and Brown Elementary School doesn't have any power, this is a method for sort of using your overall fleets to help power those excuse me, those applications. So our chargers on the high speed side go from 60, 100, 120, 180, 360, and 500 plus in terms of kilowatts. Can you hear me okay? Or
Yeah, I just wanted to know the units. Yep.
yeah, so 500 plus. On the ones for the public facing, we recommend on the high speed ones, the 60 and 120, the 120, the 182, the 125 is really built for fleets. And the reason it's built for fleets, it's only sequential charging, which means that the first vehicle pulls in, it puts it charges up, it can serve 125 kilowatts at one time. And then when that vehicle's full, it moves to the next one. That 125 kilowatt charger can have up to 5 different dispensers. So you can add dispensers at any later date or any later time as well. So depending upon what your needs are, if you have a large, medium, heavy duty truck that has a 400 kilowatt battery, we'll fill that in 3 hours. So overnight, it could fill 4 trucks. My apologies. My apologies. I just can't shake this cough. And there's absolutely no reason for it. Okay. So that's on our chargers. Our software is incredibly smart. And it allows for multiple user groups. It'll provide all of your sustainability metrics, carbon credits, greenhouse gas, e-miles, things of that nature. But it also has an energy management system. So if your energy was hitting a peak, it will throttle it down and serve less energy to the vehicles at the time. You can set it for various different pricing strategies in terms of when between 8 and 10, if that's the lowest price, or the highest price, that will set it at a lower delivery for that. But it also offers you an opportunity to have multiple user groups and multiple pricing strategies. And so you could have where town employees have one rate that they pay, that out-of-towners have another rate that they pay, that if you're a citizen of the town, you could pay a different rate. So there'd be multiple user groups in which that they have a different pricing strategy that's tied to each one of those chargers. Our software can sit across not just our chargers, but any open API chargers. So any existing chargers that you have, that'll provide one dashboard for you to be able to see everything that's going on, what's active, what is charging, where the statistics are in terms of the heavier areas for charging, things of that nature. And that's on the software. So there's a lot of features that are tied to that. That you can add or that you can toggle on, that'll give you other reports and visibility. I noticed the report that you sent out was focused on expense. I noticed it wasn't focused on revenue generation. So A lot, it'll do the math and identify what the profitability is for the month or for the week or for the day or for the port, and provide you with all of that metrics under one dashboard. I mentioned that we have a Sourcewell contract. It's both for our hardware and our software, but it's also for our consulting services too. And the way that we're working with many municipalities is on a number of fronts. One of them is doing the analysis on total cost of ownership of their existing vehicle and current vehicles that they have, identifying both age, output of carbon, when they should be retired, what is a replacement vehicle, and really doing an analysis on the total cost of ownership. That's one of the areas. And then the second area is site assessment. So we do from soup to nuts from the beginning in terms of understanding what are the overall goals of EV infrastructure, laying maps out and plans for that, and it takes it all the way through to stamped engineered drawings and construction documents. So it has 4 or 5 phases to it that will provide you with various different insights into what your opportunities are, what the costs are associated with that, and then really a roadmap and a plan to be able to execute that on a fairly easy basis. Like, you can give that to any construction company and they can implement it, or we can help you with that as well. We do offer 360-degree opportunities to sort of work with us. So from any of those elements, but you're not tied to that. We allow people to participate in as much or as little as they want. So sometimes they just buy the equipment from us. Sometimes they just buy the software from us, and sometimes we're just providing consulting advice on where EV charging is going. So that was kind of a long 10-minute soliloquy, but I hope it gave you a little bit of insight into who we are and what we do. And I do think that sometimes charging is a little bit more complex than sometimes we give it credit for, and there are nuances that are tied to that. And if there's questions that you have about what you're doing now or where you're going, or how we might be able to provide you with any kind of advice or help, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, so why don't we open it up for questions, but I want to welcome Robert Lutsky. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Sorry, I did the classic click on the wrong link thing. Kind of embarrassing, but I was kind of there going, where's everybody?
No problem. Okay, so let me open it up to questions. Does anybody have questions for Russ and Robert?
My hand's up.
Yeah, Steve's hands up.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm a little confused here. So do you use any charging network like ChargePoint?
Well, ChargePoint's a manufacturer like we are. So they're a competitor, and they make their own chargers, and they also have their own software. But we run ChargePoint, our software, over ChargePoint equipment on municipalities that have already procured 2 or 3 of them, and they like our software platform better. And then we also sell equipment in a competitive way against them. So our equipment is a little bit different.
For what an account with who?
I'm sorry, say that again.
To use your chargers, people have to sign up for an account.
Oh yeah. So ours is it's app based. So it's no different than ChargePoint's. It's like it's ChargePoint, EVgo, Blink, ours. They're all just app based networks. So there's a QR code. You hit the QR code, and then you're locked in for as long as you ever want to charge.
So when people search for a charging station, pop up just like ChargePoint's charging.
Correct. Yeah, all around the country, both on Google and then also PlugShare, which is the probably largest mapping of EV charging stations that are out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Debbie.
So your level 2 chargers, I was just wondering what kind of charging rate you can get, sort of a typical and probably the max out of a level 2.
So good. So the rate is certainly up to you, right? And obviously it's what the market will bear, right? So, and that's going to probably fluctuate time over time. You know, we have probably about 4 or 5% increases in electric rates almost on a yearly basis these days. But I would say that I see the sweet spot in level 2 charging at the like 36 cents a kilowatt. So if you're purchasing your energy somewhere between 12 and 17 cents a kilowatt hour, you could charge 36 cents, and that's a very fair place. When you get into level 3 charging, it runs from 36 up to 50 plus, based on the convenience of being able to sort of put that energy in a lot quicker capacity.
And how much mileage can you put on in an hour?
So yeah, so right now, I would say most of the car batteries that are out there are 80 kilowatt car batteries. They range up to 120 now, up to 120, but very few at 120. They're very few at 100. Like it's the super Tesla that's at 100, not the base Tesla. So the base Tesla is at like 80-ish or so. So right now, nobody comes in to their charging station empty ever. You come in 10%, 15, 20%. So if you have 20% on your, you could charge that in 3 hours on a level 2 charger, fully charged. So they're high speed, and they're so it'll put in about 20% an hour, a little bit more than 20% an hour. 20% an hour if you're at 100. If you're at 80, it's faster.
So how many kilowatts per hour? I think
19.2.
19.2. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Debbie,
And
was that your
it can't get
question?
it can't get any
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so used to, with my Tesla thinking, well, my level 1, is I get 3 to 4 miles, an hour put on.
Sure.
And so I was wondering with level 2, usually it's about 15 miles on my Tesla, about an hour.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering with yours, whether you can, ramp it up a bit.
So your level 1 is ours is about 6.5 times as fast as your level 1, and probably about your level 2 is probably coming in at about 7 or so. So we're about 3 times as fast as your level 2 Tesla charger that you have, that you plug into your at home, right? That you
Right. Yeah.
It's probably even less. It's probably 5.4. So it's probably about 4 times as fast for that charger, for our charger. Yeah, so you can't get higher than 19.2 kilowatts. It's and just to give you a perspective, so that's all AC based. So that's when you get into high speed charging, is you get into the DC fast charging side of things. And what the biggest expense in that area, and the reason why it costs 25 times as more, is that it has a power cabinet. So so you're talking about a rather large piece of an inverter that's an infrastructure that goes into the power cabinet, and that really represents probably about 40 to 50% of the incremental cost of a level 3 charger. And our chargers are very similar in terms of like how they go. But if you think of a charger's about the size of a Coke machine. So that's the size of a high-speed charger. And then what you see outside in front of your parking spot is a dispenser. So it's just that little tall pedestal with the actual port or hose that's tied to that. So there's a piece of equipment that you don't see that's about the size of a Coke machine. That's where lot of the power electronics sort of resides.
Okay, Steve?
Let's see, we're charging users a parking fee for any time in excess of 2 hours. Is your software flexible enough to include that sort of thing?
Yeah, not only can it can do that too, but it can also, you can set it for dwell time. So if somebody is there too long, they'll get notifications. So there'll be a notification that said, hey, your first 2 hours is free. You know, if you can come and get your car off the charger, otherwise we're charging you $5 for the next hour, or 2 hours, or that you've left your car on the charger and there's a you know, $6 an hour charge for dwell time. You know, come get it. So our software has the ability to sort of keep people moving in and out and on and off the charger, and alert them to the fact that their charging is complete, and could they move it for somebody else to take advantage of.
Great. Any other questions? I guess one question we're grappling with ours is, what's the life of your chargers? Is
Yeah.
it expected to last 3 years, 5 years, 2 years?
Yep. So we're the only charging company that starts off with 5-year guarantee on our chargers. So our level 2s are 5 years, where ChargePoint or everybody else is a 2-year warranty. Our philosophy, we have a 99.9% uptime on our chargers. We're in an environment where 1 out of every 5 chargers is inoperable right now, and we have an impeccable record on that. Our philosophy on the level 2 chargers is that if we can't fix an issue remotely through a software or a firmware change, we will come out and rip and replace it within 48 hours. And then the second part of that is that we have 24/7 service, so that if somebody 3 in the morning is having trouble logging on, or they can't get in, or they can't make a handshake connection with their vehicle, we have our team that's there to be able to speak with them on that. On the level 3 chargers, we make every effort to fix them remotely through software. And if we can't fix them remotely, then we send a technician out to fix that. But they all have 5-year end-to-end warranties on them, and they could have 10-year warranties if you wanted to pay a warranty, an incremental warranty for that.
Okay, great. Ginny, you had your hand up?
That was my question about maintenance and response to service requests. So thank you.
Level 2 doesn't have really any maintenance. There's no filters or anything that has to be changed. They don't have any. The level 3s have a little bit of fluid after year 2, and a filter that has to be changed. So pretty low maintenance, but we also provide maintenance opportunities too. And but it's also something we're working a lot with very nervous mechanics at public works lots, who are worried about their jobs disappearing from moving to electric vehicles from diesel. And so we're making a concerted effort to add this into their training and have them sort of manage the maintenance and repairs of these elements as they go through. So we have a real concerted effort to work with those teams to give them the tools that they need to be able to sort of work on that, on those elements.
Mm-hmm. Great. Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, just back in the day, severe cold adversely affected electric, the lithium ion batteries. I'm wondering if that's still a problem and if your software compensates for that.
So, weather, both hot and cold, definitely impact lithium ion. I worked for, we pioneered liquid cooling and heating. So where we wrap actually a coil around every cell. So that keeps it at a specific temperature. So it has optimal and longevity for it. But to answer your question as it relates to the charging infrastructure, the charger is not going to impact the battery in terms of the battery. What will happen is that there will be a 1 to 2 minute slower start when you first charge if you're in freezing temperatures, in which that it's just not going to just start firing electricity through the element. It's going to has a handshake with the engine, and the engine starts to move to a place in which that it hits a certain temperature level, and then it has a free flow of energy. So when I hate to tell people that no, there's no impact, because that wouldn't be actually correct, but it's a negligible slowdown in the beginning, and then it serves and delivers at a normal pace, and they are designed to sort of protect for the longevity of the engine. One of the things that people don't realize, you go to a Tesla 250 kilowatt high speed charger, it only charges at 1 to 2 minutes at that speed, and then it moves to 60 kilowatts. Because if it continued to charge at that speed, your battery would only last 2 or 3 years. So there's, everybody thinks the highest speed is delivering that straight through. That's not the case. It actually throttles it down to be able to protect the longevity of the battery. These are guaranteed through minus 21 degrees, and so we're on the cold side. We're fine. On the hot side, we're fine too.
Okay. Great. Any final question? All right. Well, I'm sorry.
You mind if I ask just a quick question?
Sure.
I certainly appreciate your time and being able to share with you what we know. And is there anything you could share with us as terms of like what you're thinking about in terms of like as a town and a municipality, and whether there's consideration on the public works and fleet side, school bus side, things of that nature, or is it primarily a public charging conversation, and where you're thinking about potentially that things you might want to do?
Yeah. Does somebody want to give an update? Would you like me to give an update? So we are doing a demonstration project with an electric school bus starting in January. That's being done in conjunction with Enel. It's a vehicle to grid demonstration project, and they are providing the charger, which we calculated has to be a level 3 charger. So they have like a level 3 charger that's going to be able to charge the bus from, it'll never get to zero, but to fully charge the bus within 2 hours.
Yep.
And that was something we realized we had to have if the bus was going to be available every day, including the half days when there's not a lot of time in between the morning and the afternoon shifts. Depending on that demonstration project and grant funding and costs, we would look at converting the entire school bus fleet, but it is very dependent on the results of the demonstration project and what kind of grants we might be able to get. We pretty much have concluded we're not going to get any of the EPA money. It's just our community doesn't really fit the boxes that they're trying to fund. We lease our buses. They're like brand new. So there are communities that have 10 years or older buses that they own that need to be replaced. So we don't anticipate getting money from the EPA, but if there are demonstration project opportunities, if you have a vehicle to grid demonstration project opportunity, the town is very open to that. And we're moving forward with that. As far as the trucks, as you know, the electric trucks are significantly more expensive. And so we are keeping an eye open for grants that would allow us to defray the incremental cost.
Sure.
And maybe at that point, we'd also have to be able to look at grants for helping to offset the expensive cost of the level 2 or level 3 charger. I mean, this town is just not going to spend $50,000 on a charger. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
they spent a lot of money on Monday, but not on a charger. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of capital demands.
Yeah.
And our fleets aren't that big anyway. So I don't think that I think where we might want to continue the conversation is on energy storage. And if you're doing anything on the VPP, and then Ginny's raised her hand. So I don't know if that's because she wants to give an update on the fleet assessment that we're undertaking, or if she had another question or something to add. But I think a virtual power plant demonstration project with backup power or energy storage or something that takes advantage of the Clean Peak Energy Storage Program in Massachusetts would be something that we are very open to exploring as well. We have very poor reliability and resiliency. But Ginny.
Yeah, so
What did you wanna
Michelle, who's our assistant town manager, told me that Cohasset was recently funded 6 EVs and 1 charging station through the Mass EVIP program. And as part of what we need to be doing for the Climate Leaders program is commit to totally decarbonizing our fleet by 2050. So we'll need to have a vote at town meeting for this of a vehicle policy, and we'll need to also, look at our police cruisers and change them over to hybrid or electric cruisers. So it's something that we're going to be working on and working towards.
Sure, that's exciting. Yeah.
So is the Green Leader program finalized?
The Climate Leader program. So it's still in the works, but we put in our letter of intent or expression of interest for the program. But it is still being finalized. So that's why they can't come out to speak with us until January about it.
Okay, so the commitment to do 100% fleet conversion is final draft or finalized.
It would be a vote at town meeting or through the Board of
for the
Selectmen.
program. For the program, that is a definite requirement for the program.
Yes, that is a requirement. Yep. So the requirements are finalized. The amount of money that they're giving to the communities is still sort of wavering and waffling.
Okay, good.
Do you know whether, would you be open to making us an introduction to your Enel folks where we can bring them some of our learnings on the V2G school bus program that we have running in California and in Florida too. So there could be some things that we could help them avoid some rabbit holes.
Yeah, I'm happy to make the introduction. They have their own chargers, the juice box, right? But no, we're all about collaboration and connection and demonstration and opportunity. So happy to make that. And in fact, Debbie, if Debbie is taking the meeting minutes, once you make that an action item for me to do an email introduction between Enel and the positive energy.
Yep. Super.
Can I ask one quick question before you go?
Yeah.
That was so informative. Thank you. I just wondered, so how many installed chargers do you guys have? It sounds like you are up and running and building.
We are. So there's the level 2s have 7,000 or so here in the United States or so.
No, how many does Positive Energy have?
Yeah, there's 7,000 of the level 2s that are in the United States, but most of them are done originally through residential developments. So condo complexes, things of that nature. We're about 500 installations on the level 3 chargers, but that's growing quite rapidly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, super. No, I appreciate having the opportunity to sort of share with you this. The only thing I was going to say about, and just to plant a seed on the school bus, because I've been talking to a lot of school bus too, is that you're definitely using a 60 kilowatt charger, because those school buses are 138 kilowatt batteries for the most part. And but like and that's where it goes back to what's your use case. You're saying we have to charge these things in 2 hours. There's probably 90% of your school fleet probably sits from 4 in the afternoon till 5 in the morning or so. So
That's not the problem. The problem is they average 40 miles a route, 40 miles a day.
Yeah.
20 miles a route. And the problem with is do you have enough charge between the morning and the afternoon?
so you're 100% right. So basically those buses can do about 100 to 120 miles round trip. Now, mind you, it depends if it's uphill both ways, if it's cold, I mean, everything that you power from the bus comes from the electric. So if the guy runs the air conditioning like relentlessly, that's all coming out of the
Russ, we did the calculations.
Yeah, yeah.
This was a critical issue that had to be resolved before
Yeah.
the school committee would agree to it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It's just, and it's 120 kilowatt hour bus battery.
Okay.
And so then by the time you work it down and 40 miles, and in the winter you can get, we estimated 2 to 3 miles, we're just right on the cusp. And it really came down to 8 days of the half days when there's not a lot of time in between. Anyway, it got resolved because at the end of the day, we identified the problem, how often it happened, what the cost of leasing a bus in those conditions would be. And Nell just ponied up and said, we're just going to give you a level 3
Sure. That makes sense.
charger. And it was just, we had gone through so much negotiation at that point. They just wanted to close the deal.
Yeah.
So we were able to get the level 3 charger.
Super. That's great. Well, listen, thanks again for having us. If there's any particular follow-up, I'd be happy to send you our Sourcewell agreements and contracts and pricing, and so that you have that if that's helpful for you at all. And if there's any follow-up, feel free to let us know. We'd love to, look, this is a long haul, and 2050 will be here before you can bat an eye, and it's a lot of years between now and then. So maybe we can find a pathway where we can help bring some value to the work you're doing. So
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming and visiting and sharing with us. And we would, just because we're information mongers, we would love to get your pricing sheet and details and even a draft contract. I don't think the need is imminent, but as Ginny noted, there's conversions happening, changes happening, and it's good for us to be aware. And it's also helpful to have that information on hand when we try to go after grants.
Yep. All right, super. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. So nice to meet everybody. Thanks for your time.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing we had put on the agenda was leadership positions. Would anybody object if we move that and allowed for Taylor to give an update? Just so she doesn't have to stick around more than she has already.
Hey, it's all good. It was good information. I was about to ping Jenny and see if I needed to get some quotes from him on the microgrid that they just done.
I would say, Taylor,
email.
feel free to contact them, or I can make an introduction so you can work with them directly. So if there's pricing that you're looking for and they can help, that would be, why not?
Yeah, it would definitely help at this point. Ginny and I have been striking out when it comes to anybody wanting to quote a microgrid. Yeah, pretty bad. But anyways, so is the town hall approved? Did it happen?
Okay, so actually, the reason why we had special town meeting listed is we were going to do a recap, and the answer is yes, it was approved as a go at special town meeting, barely, like you needed a 66.7% vote, and it was like 67.1% of the vote passed it. But it's not out of the woods yet because it was one of many high price tag capital expenditures that were approved at town meeting, most of which go onto the ballot for the Saturday's special election to get approved by the voters. And in the past, there has been incidents where it was approved at town meeting, then rejected at the ballot box. So
Gotcha.
given that it was
Well,
so close,
I
uh,
just figured, I
guarantee.
mean, regardless, I'm going to be pressing forward on this. I just thought it'd be easier working with some of the folks that I've been in contact with, whether or not they'd be like, well, why do you need this anymore? It didn't get approved. So it's still in question. But regardless, I'll continue to press forward. So I can go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And just go over, I mean, here's the plain proposal, pretty straightforward. Nothing too exciting there. So the main proposals, which and recommendations, which we had already discussed, solar array on the rooftop, and I know Tom, you and I had talked, and Ginny and we had all discussed that the rooftop may not even be feasible for it. So I'm still working with somebody from the town on clearing that up. So a solar array for the rooftop, backup batteries to store, and the technology gateway service disconnect main panel, all that to allow for islanding mode, and then interconnection to the grid system. And with that, additional recommendations that I've kind of started to research and look into, that'll fall into the final report are additional solar arrays for carport design, the residential parking spots, the customer parking, and then the existing public parking lots that are right all next to each other in that area. And then looking at EV chargers for customers, residents, municipal vehicles. I'm not sure if, since it's a town hall, there will be any like municipal vehicles that are kept there, and they come out of the office, drive to do something. So and if any of those are even electric yet, I'm not sure the fleet as far as the town goes. And then we had heard somewhere that there was an HVAC heat pump. And Jenny and I had kind of talked on getting the building to net zero. So some of these other initiatives kind of help get towards that goal with the building. So energy reduction efforts, including energy efficient appliances, windows lighting, resident education, water reduction, and then also a satellite backup communication system during emergencies. So it's pretty standard with the microgrids that there is an interconnected satellite backup system, and that's a huge benefit for residents, and then also like the actual residents of the building, but then anybody else in the area that would need that location as a hub. So then additional buildings, what I've actually started to do is draft up all the town buildings, or like the police station, the existing fire station, the new police station, maybe that one's one of the other ones that got approved or not, and just going through those to say, okay, these are the other areas that we could create these additional microgrids within the town, providing hubs, providing backup power and things like that. So kind of grouping those together, getting them on a map, and just saying like, hey, phase one will work here, and then as we continue to grow with the microgrids, we can add them in other locations, and provide that backup power as well. And then I know with the town there is concerns as far as funding, and that affordable housing can be a great option to help get more of the funding pushed along. So I did go ahead and put up all those affordable housing units that are in the area, and those are also kind of tied into those hubs in different locations that we could work through. And I did find some previous studies as well on the landfill having portable batteries. I believe the landfill solar system having portable batteries. I found a study previously on that, and then the other study I found was associated with an elderly affordable housing unit, I think over on Elm Street, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. it's escaping me right now, but kind of just continuing to work through those and put those up as recommendations. Like I had mentioned, having a lot of trouble getting any kind of estimates. A lot of the previously used consultants weren't pushing for microgrids or anything. So I'll continue to press forward and try and get as much as I can for quotes to really help fill out the economics of this. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with the recommendations and everything.
Taylor, did Tony ever get back to you? Tony Parente from Innovis for
No,
microgrid? Okay.
I'd have to
And
double check.
yeah, and Abode we determined was not the right fit.
Right.
Justin from Abode.
And
Yeah.
what about Doran Hole, who's at Amoresco? Was he able to give you information on?
He was on the call with us.
Yeah, he said he had some leads that he was going to follow up with you on.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from him. He was worried that everything was a little too large scale for what we needed because he had done like universities and like bigger scale type items and that there might not be anything feasible. Um, yeah, I don't see anything from Tony.
So I just sent Tony an email again today. Martha and I were talking before the meeting, and I sent him something again asking him if he could help.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great.
All right. Any comments or questions? So Taylor, I think we have had trouble with the affordable housing outside of town-owned buildings, just because if they're owned by somebody else, like the 60 Elm Street, we had a battery ready to go, and then they decided they didn't want the risk, they didn't want the maintenance, they didn't want to install it.
Okay.
So I would say if you want to make your life easier, just knock that off and
Okay.
focus
60
on
Elm
town-owned
Street.
sites.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think, add in the schools for potential microgrids,
Okay.
specifically not the high school, middle school, which is a do not touch because they're looking at getting a new school. But if you want to look at Osgood Deer Hill, because
Okay.
those roofs are about to be replaced, and it right now houses the emergency center, although that might move to the new police fire station if that get or the new station. But that campus has a lot of rooftop. But
Okay.
again, I think it's just a question of putting it on a map, right? You're not going to be doing an analysis of a potential microgrid.
Right.
And then the
Right.
last thing is on pricing, and we can take this offline. If you haven't already, look at the EIA. They do annualized numbers estimating, and they do it by region.
Okay.
And there's Microgrid Today, which tries to put out information on pricing, and obviously it's going to be very site specific, but there might be
Yeah.
some insights you can obtain there
Okay.
on things. And there might be some things on the Massachusetts government website that sort of suggest what potential prices might be, or have done studies on what potential prices might be.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some that were, on the forecasting side of it more than current pricing, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense. Like,
mean, and that's fine because the current pricing, we're not going to get a valid price until we put it out to bid, if we
right.
put it out to bid. So
Right.
this is just sort of high level estimates.
Okay.
And the two studies that you did look at, although those are a little outdated, those were done, I think, 2021.
Yep.
Those did have dollar values, which were very high, but
Okay.
they did have cost estimates.
Yeah, I'd even used one of them for that. May be something that I might reach out, or you can tell me who to talk to. Getting electricity usage estimates for the existing town hall. Because kind of doing a side by side comparison to say we're taking, from what the existing town hall, how is energy efficient it is or isn't, what's the load there, and then what the new town hall would look like from an energy load perspective.
We have that.
Okay.
Ginny, you have all the electricity usage by buildings, right?
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that was, you know, for this, I just think about it in the most random times. And I think I was driving and I thought of that. And I was like, I need to get that information from somebody.
I can
Yeah.
send you that, Taylor. I'm making a note
Okay.
now.
Perfect.
All right, great. Well, Taylor, any other questions for Taylor? So thank you so much. And I do think, we'll know Saturday whether the vote proceeds to go forward. But I think regardless, it's a great exercise and a great
for sure.
opportunity to really think about how we want to be thinking about buildings as we think about new buildings. And if the new police fire station goes forward, that's a whole nother, opportunity as well. So I think
Absolutely.
this lays a great a great framework and roadmap for future analysis. So I really like how you did that expansion of here are other potential locations.
Yeah, for sure. And then if I could get a bio from everybody, I stalked a lot of LinkedIn profiles, so that's why you got a friend request from me, and got some bio information from you guys. But if there's anything else you want to send over for just like a short little bio, it's going to be one of the things I keep in the appendix for the AEC team and part of the stakeholders. So if you could send your bio over, that would be very helpful. And I'm on this email for the town meeting, but it's Taylor N. Clark 11, so that one's me. But
Did I send to a different Taylor Clark?
no, you sent it to the right one.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no, you got it right. I got the email.
Okay,
But
that's good.
just so everybody, there's no
Great.
other Taylors on the call, obviously, but
All right. Well, Taylor,
All right.
thank you so much. We appreciate your effort, and
Yeah, for
I know
sure.
it's coming down to the deadline, but thank you for working with us on this. And it's just it's very exciting to have you working on this. So thank you. And Ginny,
Yeah,
thank you
happy
for
to help.
working with Taylor on that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank y'all for
Okay,
the opportunity. I'm happy to help.
great. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, see y'all.
All right. While we're on it, do we want to do the special town meeting recap? So a lot of you were there. You saw the votes that went through. A lot of new buildings. Most of them have to get approval from the town this Saturday. Although there were some special funds that don't necessarily need that approval. I guess the one point of confusion that we were able to clarify was related to the zoning bylaws that had been proposed. And in that, the language that we had expressed concerns about was kept in. And that was language that would prohibit an accessory function. So if an EV charging station is installed as an accessory structure on a plot of land, it could not charge for electricity. And so that basically is trying to prevent people from throwing up a charging station and establishing a commercial charging business, I guess. There was confusion about what that would mean for the town's charging stations. Hopefully, Judge Cutler was able to clarify that it does not apply to the town because the town can decide it's doing whatever it wants to do, and therefore a charging station is not accessory, it's a town function. And so therefore the town can charge for their electric vehicle charging stations. But what it does not allow is for store owners, Stop and Shop or downtown store owners to set up a electric vehicle charging station and charge for that. And that was sort of just a clarification of what the rule is now, because an accessory use is not supposed to go off and have a primary functional use. So it was sort of clarifying what was now, but it did restrict, I think, by being explicit, it became restrictive, maybe more restrictive than it seemed to be before. So Steve, you were there and had some questions. I think you went up to Judge Cutler afterwards. Was there anything else or anybody else who was at the town meeting that they
No,
wanted?
spoke to Tom Callahan and thanked him for clarifying what the accessories were meant. I was thoroughly confused about that. But I still think it's a bad idea. I mean, I see no reason why anybody should install a charging station and you know, put a price on it if they want to. But why do you want to restrict that? Anyway, at least I understand the rule now.
Debbie.
Well, I can't hear you, Steve, so I don't really know what you just said, but
It's better now.
it's much
No.
better. Yes.
I'm not used to using my iPad for this purpose, and I keep closing my hand over the speaker, so I don't really know where the speaker is. But anyway, I was just saying that after the meeting, I spoke to Tom Callahan, and I thanked him for explaining it.
Yeah.
Use.
Now you're bad again. I don't know what you're doing.
Now, how about now?
Just hold it close without putting the camera into your nose. How about that?
Yes.
I don't know if it's worth going on about this. I just said that after the meeting, I spoke to Tom Callahan. I thanked him for explaining what the accessory use is. I understand the rule now. I still think it's a bad idea. I don't understand why we want to force a business to, if they want to offer charging stations to the public, why do we have to make them eat the cost of the electricity? I still don't understand the logic of that, but okay. I guess it goes along with other sorts of rules that the zoning board has. So, okay.
All right. So I think there were moans and groans. Those were heard by the select board. I think before we move down a path of making a proposal to change that, and there is opportunity to change it during the next round, because this was sort of an administrative cleanup clarification of existing rules, more so than supposedly changing the content, whereas the spring meeting might change things and is going to be addressing wind and solar explicitly. I think we just need to understand, is it worth a fight? I mean, in reality, how many of these commercial sites intend to install charging stations or wanted to install charging stations or can install charging stations? And obviously, if it's a gas station, that's a primary use, which is to fuel transportation. So they can install fast chargers if that's what the gas stations want to do. So it doesn't preclude the gas stations from doing it.
Plug share and look at available charging stations. You'll see a lot of level 2 charging stations are at businesses. A lot of them are free, but some of them aren't. And you know, why should we dictate whether you know, Stop and Shop can charge or not?
Right.
Or a realtor or a restaurant, or you know, there's many types of businesses offer charging stations. And I think they should be able to allow to recoup their electricity costs if they want to. If they want to give it away free, great. I'll go charge there. But if they want to try to recoup some of their costs, why not? Why would we say no? I think that would be in line with Republican philosophy too. So.
Okay, Debbie, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you know, when we went through the exercise, I don't remember getting forwarded any language about the charging stations. It was only solar. So if I had seen this, I would have red flagged it for sure. And as far as I remember, and you know, I mean, most level 3 charging stations are at unrelated, you know, places. They're in shopping centers. They're at grocery stores and things like that. I mean, I don't understand this at all, and I definitely think that we should at least make it a special permit if there's a reason that we want to have some control over it. But But to outright, disallow it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And why shouldn't a business have an opportunity to make money in other ways? If it's going to actually be a public service, which I think it will be, if we're going to want to encourage the development of these and make them more convenient. So I really want to pursue changing it at least to a special permit at the next meeting. I think we should make it an action item and stay on it, and maybe even make a motion that we'd like the language changed. I don't know, but.
I should point out that when I made this, talk to Tom about this, he made the point that, well, if a business wants to charge for the electricity that their charging stations are making available to the public, they just have to apply for a license to add it to their business. That's all. And I said, is that difficult to do or expensive? He said, oh, no. But I don't know. But it seems like a lot of trouble to go through for a business. So I agree with Debbie.
All
Can I
right.
ask-
Yeah, go
Can I
ahead,
just ask
Barbara.
a quick question? So I'm not sure what our ask is. So what is our intent as the AEC? What is it that we want in terms of additional charging stations? Or what was our ask? Because I wasn't there on Monday.
So what they put in was that any chargers that you charged money for in an unrelated business were disallowed. So you could, as Tanya said, if it was a related business like a gas station that was supplying energy and they put in charging stations, it would be allowed. But if Stop and Shop wanted to put in a supercharger, they couldn't do it.
And what gave rise to the discussion of this? Did we have an ask of them? I'm not sure.
No. It was a revision of the zoning bylaws.
I see.
Right.
And what would our position be in any case? What is our position? Because I'm not sure what it is.
We've never had one, and it's never been in the bylaw before. That I think is all new language. That's not a cleanup. That's new. Because anything with solar and charging stations, I don't think have ever been in the bylaw.
Yeah. So we think it's a good thing to have, I mean, I do, but we think it's a good thing for Stop and Shop and Shaw's to be able to put in charging stations because it's a service they offer to their customers. And also it's, I mean, I guess from my point of view, it's also a benefit for the Cohasset residents, and it's also an accelerant of a clean energy adoption, right? Those three things.
And it's an economic enticement, right, for cars on 3A to stop, charge, and buy store.
And enhance the revenues of the locale, right? Of who's ever offering it, that then they would pay for it. So is it a drain? Do they feel that it would? Was there a reason that they cited? Do they think it's a drain on the powers, or it would be dangerous, or is there a rationale?
I think it was more about sort of just business. I mean, having this is accessory businesses, and I think they didn't want to encourage accessory businesses. If you want to do it for free, there would be no problems. Set it up for free, which some grocery stores do. They have level 2s for free. But any time you charged in an unrelated business, that was not allowed. And I think that is a very
Barbara, this was just one small clause in a very long article before town meeting on the zoning bylaw rewrite. And the rewrite was meant to be almost strictly administrative, just cleaning up the language and so forth. The stuff about charging stations, as Debbie said, was totally new. It hasn't been in zoning bylaws, haven't addressed charging stations at all before. And they simply made the rule for charging stations consistent with any other sort of thing that a business might want to do. If you're going to make it part of your business, you got to declare it as being part of your business. But as far as charging stations go, it makes no sense.
But it's not a big deal for them to install it. I think what I heard you say before, if Stop and Shop applied for that as to add on to their business and establish charging stations, they would allow it.
That's what Tom Callahan told me.
Thank you.
Not sure I 100% believe him, but that's what he said.
Yeah, I think the bigger problem is if like residents, if there's like a sharing or something, or residents want to start installing Mamma Jamma chargers and putting themselves on the network. I think they just
Condo complex, for instance. Residents in the condo have or apartment houses have a difficulty of charging electric vehicles. They can't plug it into their garage. So maybe a condo complex that might be willing to put in a charger for their residents or the public in general. But they should be allowed to charge to recoup the cost of electricity, I would think. I don't, why make them give it away for free?
Yeah, so I think we probably, so it sounds like we have to decide if this committee wants to pursue this, monitor it, decide if we want to take a different position and how strongly we'll want to take a different position. This was in there, Debbie. We did express concerns, or at least I did when I was attending the zoning bylaws, that this was not a good idea. I questioned whether or not it meant the town could not charge for charging. So this was in there. I think we were very focused on the renewable side of things, but this was in the text. But I think the select board heard the groans and the eye rolling about this, because why shouldn't a commercial establishment be able to do it? Why shouldn't a condominium complex or an apartment complex or a multifamily home be able to install a charger and charge for it just like they charge for electricity, right? I mean, it's unclear whether this is a true limitation or not really a limitation, but I think maybe it's an important enough issue that it'd be worth this committee taking a vote about whether we want to establish a subcommittee to just I mean, we're going to have a zoning bylaw subcommittee anyway, because there are some major changes that are going to be done for the Springtown meeting. So maybe we just include it with that group. Does that make sense?
Right. And in the short term, and not, I think we should try to, because I don't think I've ever understood what the rationale to put that in there was. I'd be happy to talk with Tom and find out, why it got in there in the first place. Because if I never remember seeing anything about it. So I'd be happy to do that. I will offer to do that. And then I can report back at our next meeting, and then we can decide what action we want to take.
Okay, that'd be great. So Debbie, if you could get more clarification on the rationale. We did get confirmation that it does not impede the town for being able to charge. But if you could get more background on the rationale, and also while you're talking to Tom, get some more information on what they're going to be doing in the process they're going to be following for revising the bylaws for the Springtown meeting, and how we can be involved from the get-go, because they are modifying and adding, I think, sections tied to renewables and zoning bylaws for the renewables that are going to be pretty significant.
Okay, I will do that, and I'll report back at the next meeting.
Great. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the town meeting update? Okay.
We got to all go vote on Saturday.
We all have to go
Get to vote early and often.
Exactly. Okay, so I guess, Ginny, we are going to need to get to the leadership thing, but that might get pushed to the end. Ginny, do you want to give us an update on the things you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. So Like I said, Taylor and I have been working, trying to get quotes, and it's been really challenging. Devlin Solar, who we worked with before for the project that was going to be at the affordable housing, they weren't willing to. They said this really isn't what we do. We're not going to provide a quote. But I did reach out to them. So Michelle told me that she's working, just pivoting a little bit. Michelle told me that she is working on the Mass CEC battery grant implementation. And I've asked her, if she needs any help or where she is with it. And I haven't gotten any more update than that she's working on it. So Martha and I talked today and we said, it can't hurt to have more quotes. So we reached out today to Innovis Energy, who the town has a contract with. So that was Tony Parente. And then I reached also back out to Devlin Solar to ask them if they have any more information. And then there's one more person that we reached out to that I have to dig their name out of my emails for when we were working on the affordable housing units for the battery. So I have to dig their name out for, oh, and Chris, it was the people that you gave me the name of, and I'm just blanking on them right now, but I'll find them.
But why can't we use the quotes that we got for the Harborview?
Yeah, we could. I just didn't know how far off they would be. So I looked up the square footage today of the building, and I just need to see how, because that was for just a community room, and this is for a
Right, you just scale it up. They're modular. I think you can just scale it up, and you can go onto the Tesla website because we're looking at the power walls,
okay.
and that tells you exactly how much they can do for backup.
Okay, so then I can do that then. Okay, I'll do that then. And then
I would say also, it's not a bad estimate to take the bids we got in 2020 and double them.
okay.
And I say that just because the interest rates have gone up, and these are very capital intensive, upfront capital intensive projects, and interest rates have, more than doubled. And so that's it's a mortgage, right? The capital cost has probably gone up as well, but the big change is the interest rates.
Okay. Right, so we're getting all these quotes, and then we need to spend the money by the end of the month, by the end of December. So we need
But
to
the
hire
quotes, are
somebody.
the quotes for Taylor or the quotes for?
So we're doing two things. Some quotes were for Taylor. I was asking Tony from Innovis for both of them. And then the Mass CEC battery grant project. We need to have an RFP out and hire somebody to do the work, to expend the money before December 31st, correct?
Right, but isn't that what Michelle's doing?
She told me she's working on it, yes.
And she knows the deadline.
Yeah.
And
So
she's
we were doing,
officer.
yeah, we were just doing some backup work to try to help her with that.
Okay.
The next thing is, so the National Grid fleet assessment. Martha again helped me with that, comparing what National Grid had with the information that we have. And I was able to get from Michelle the past green communities reports that have our fleet information in it. And now that we can see that, what National Grid has and what we have are the same, now I just need to go in, and I was saying to Martha, as part of preparing for the Green Communities annual report that's due December 1st, I need to send out an email to the department heads that have vehicles. So I'm going to ask them the questions that I need for the Green Communities report, but then also the National Grid fleet assessment asks additional questions that Green Communities does not need. And I'll ask them all of those in that email. So I said to her, I'll get all that out next week to them. And we should be able to wrap up that project once they have that information.
Okay, but let me ask you, what have we done in the past? Because I think that in the past, we just went to, I mean, I didn't do it, but I think whoever was pulling that information together just went to the accounting office and got the expenditures for fuel from each department.
Yep. So I did ask Michelle that. And again, Martha and I were talking about this because, so for like example, in Dedham, we had, swipe cards. So the accounting department had all of the information for the gasoline usage on the swipe cards. What I was referring to emailing the department heads is to ask more questions about, how long do you intend to keep this vehicle? Are you intending to purchase a new vehicle anytime soon? Sort of that change out question. And then there's some other specific details that they want to know about the vehicles that accounting wouldn't have.
Yeah, so I think you might want to go to capital planning because they have to approve all of the change outs, and the departments
Okay.
aren't necessarily the driver of that, but a centralized location would be capital planning because I believe they have a fleet. They have a whole list of the fleet and when they're coming due for replacement.
Okay. Is that the capital planning committee?
Yep.
When you say capital planning? Okay.
Yep. So the two people would be Brian Host. I mean, you can go on to the website and get their contact information, but Brian Host and Mike Dick are two people that have worked with us on different things such as the school bus. And I believe they do have a list of every vehicle in the fleet and what the year of that vehicle is and the year of replacement.
Okay.
And the year of replacement is tied to policy, and that policy is set by capital planning.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know it was tied to policy.
Well, the policy of, do we run them into the ground? Do we replace them after 5 years? Do we replace them as soon as the warranty expires? Like that's
Okay.
the
That's
replacement
great.
policy.
That's great to know. So then I can also send, because the Green Communities report's now done online. So it's a lot simpler than before, being the spreadsheets. They have what we have in there in the past. And I can even just send them that and say, how's this look? Is this changing? Okay, that's a lot simpler. Great, thank you for that. Okay, determine where the town is currently allocating its electricity credits and if the town determines departments are utilizing all the credits. So Martha reminded me I needed to ask this question. Thank you, Martha. And I emailed the town accountant today. I haven't heard back from her, but Michelle got back to me. But the information she sent was what you would actually include it in your minutes. Oh no, wait, that's solar energy array on the landfill. No, she included that information, which wasn't the right information. And then she included some other information that was older, was stopped being tracked in 2018. So I don't have any update on that yet, but I'm working on it. And then research the town's current electricity rate and when the contract expires. Again, through talking with Martha, we realized that the information that I provided you last time was for a future date. So that's for June of 2024. And Michelle had provided us that information, but we don't know currently what the town's electricity rate, and we assume it will expire in June of 2024 when they switch to the new provider and the new contract. So I asked Michelle that. We're still waiting on that. Develop grant application for green communities funding. We developed that. We submitted that. We applied for $186,000 after utility incentives, and that's for HVAC, building management controls and hardware for the Osgood and Deer Hill. So that'll align us with the past work through Green Communities grants that was done for the high school, middle school. And the facilities department was excellent to work with on that grant. And I've been working with Taylor. I told you about that. And I don't know. I've been having a really hard time reaching Justin. And you know, I've CC'd Michelle and all of these saying, you know, would you like to put out a press release about the electric vehicle charging stations? So I last pinged them October 10th. I just pinged them again right before this meeting, just saying this is a really great opportunity to highlight, you know, we can even dig up the last articles that we did on this and just brush off the dust, highlight all of the great work that the AEC and the town has done on electric vehicles, you know, the new rates, and then where we need to go from here in the future. And again, talk about the bus. You know, I think just you can't talk about this enough and how this fits in with our goals. So I'll continue to bug them. And I offered to write the article. I said, I'll write the article for you. So I don't know. I'm ready to just write an article and send it to them. But the fact that I'm getting no response, I don't know if they've already done it or if he's doing it.
Well, we
And then
also have, you said
yeah.
6 new electric vehicles and a new charging station.
No, sorry. After I said that, I looked back and that was National Grid had said that. They said, oh, that's great. We just got 6 new electric vehicles. I see Cohasset won that grant. And then Michelle responded, that was from 2019. So that we've not received any new electric vehicles. So that was from 2019. Yeah. So sorry, I misspoke in that. So good news on progress for the Stop and Shop building, yet very slow. We found the correct person at National Grid to talk to. And his name's Dennis, and we have a chain of conversation going between Palmer Capital and National Grid now. What he is saying is that there is still room to put solar on the grid. It just depends when you put it on. And National Grid's portal that's showing that they're no longer accepting any more interconnections is based on the fact that we're probably full for this year, but that come January 1st, there'll be more room to allow more interconnections and more solar to come on. So it was an interesting conversation where I said, so there is room. And he said, no, I'm not saying that. So then I said, so there isn't room. And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. But it just depends on what's coming on and when. And he needed to take this to his solar team and ask them more questions about it. But and I reached out to Michelle again and asked her where they are with town council. And we don't have, I didn't get an answer back from her as far as what progress is being made. What's the holdup? Do we just keep getting bumped down? Is this not a priority? She was under the impression that Stop and Shop owner was not favorable for solar.
I know, but we talked about the fact that this is a generic contract for credits that we could take out to the market and buy a 12% discount off our electricity rate tomorrow. Like, it's a generic contract. It doesn't have to be for Stop and Shop. It can be for any solar energy array that has extra credits to sell.
Okay. Okay. And that's what the town council, I haven't seen the town council, but they need to review. I haven't seen that. Or if I have, I need to dig it up.
No, I think it's in your inbox from February, unfortunately.
Okay. I'll look forward to that.
Because that's when we said, it might even be
That's when we
February.
started this. Yes.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
Painfully slow. But we're working on it, and we're working on clearing up the misconception about solar.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
The connections, is that just for like commercial size Stop and Shop, or is that just for any residential deployment of solar?
I think it more pertains to the commercial side and the larger ones, you know, or because I asked him that question, and again, it was the sort of a wishy-washy answer. He's like, or it depends on how many residential would try to go on at the same time. So it depends on like the volume and the size.
Okay.
But he did say, he's like, we're doing a lot of work in town to stop power outages. I know we just had power outages yesterday in town, but he says we're doing a lot of work. National Grid's doing a lot of work right now to help decrease power outages.
Could you get a list of what they're doing?
So they're
On your
doing
next conversation
North
with them.
Main Street.
They're doing stuff.
Yeah, they're doing stuff, doing polls on North Main Street, and then they were doing something at the top of Pond and 3A. But
I know,
yeah,
but
I'll
could
ask
you
them
just
for
get a
that.
list, just get an
Yes.
explicit list of what they're doing so we can
Okay.
report to the select board and take credit for that.
Yes, I will ask him for that. And then we submitted a expression of interest to DOER for the Climate Leaders Program. We submitted that November 10th. That doesn't bind us to the program. They just want to know how many communities are going to need technical assistance help to create a decarbonization roadmap. So I said that we would need that. The Climate Leaders Program, I originally was thinking we need to rush and get in right away. But I'm now learning that, there's 24 communities, I think she said, that have already adopted the stretch code. And they're going to give preference to those communities that have adopted the stretch code first. And, the stretch code is something that takes a lot of education, and the opt-in stretch code, special stretch code. And they're still working out some of the quirks of the program, because I asked them to come out and present to us on that. And then I asked MAPC. I know we've already had a presentation a while back on the stretch code, the special stretch code. I asked MAPC if they would come out, and MAPC said that their contract with DOER has expired, so they're waiting for that to be updated, but that both DOER and MAPC, one of them could present on climate leaders and the other on the stretch code sometime in January.
All right. So are they willing to come in January? Can we set that up?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Good night. Yes, they are. And they weren't willing to give me an exact date at that moment, but I can email them again. That was like a week and a half
Can
ago.
you
I
just send them
emailed
our
back.
date, the second Thursday?
Yeah.
Just say we meet second Thursday, 7:30. Let's try to get that booked.
Yes. Yep. Okay. And that's it. That's everything that I had.
Okay. Any questions for Ginny? Great. Thank you. Okay. Climate Action Plan Subcommittee.
Okay. Tanya, do you want to share your screen with the proposal I sent over, after the last meeting when I was, reviewing the minutes, and I saw that we wanted to do a climate action plan 1-pager. And so I sent it to Tanya, I don't know, a while ago, and she has rewritten it. And so I think you sent it to everybody, so they've seen it, right? The new one. So I think the idea, I was hearing two different things, whether you were going to kind of go on the QT and shop it around and just see what people thought, or were you going to make a formal presentation to the select board? I wasn't sure what the thinking is about that.
I think we're going to do both. But I think mainly because we felt like a survey to get the information was not going to be, it was a step towards a potentially more controversial request to move forward with a climate action plan, which may or may not be controversial once we get the survey results. So I've asked Jean, they've been very busy because of the special town meeting and all the capital expenditure and votes. I asked her to put us in front of the select board so we can talk about our priorities, what we've done in 2023 and what we want to do for 2024. But I think before we get into the 2024, right, this is part of a follow on to what we already said we wanted to do and they approved for 2023. And so the way, there were a couple of changes I made, Debbie, to what you had done, and I can pull it up. The first change was there was also a request for the ability to explore what it would cost to do a climate action plan. And in my mind, we already have permission to do that. So I didn't want to ask them for permission to do something that we already have permission to do, just in case they change their minds. But if we already have permission, we already have permission to explore a climate action plan. So this is just a permission to send out the survey. So
You
let
do it?
me
Hey,
pull it.
Chair? You got it.
I have it up, so let me pull it up.
Yeah, because there were a couple of things in there we put too, like that we'd like to do 2 forums or in community conversations and things like that. So,
Well, and I think that's for us to discuss.
exactly.
Is
That's
it
what
too
the
early
point of
to
this
do that? Is that something we want to include in the ask? As Barbara said, what's our ask? Right.
Right. Right.
Okay. So all of you should have gotten a copy of this. Debbie, do you want to walk through it?
You know what? Why don't you? Yeah, because I think that yeah. Why don't
I
you
mean,
do it?
most of it is still your content. It's just I framed it with the background.
Yeah.
In spring of 2023, the select board approved a list of initiatives. So it basically just says you've already approved us to go do this.
Yeah.
We're already
Ask
approved to
about
go.
the
sorry?
stakeholders versus residents.
Because we can reach out to businesses as well.
Will businesses be voting on this, or?
Well, businesses are a large part of our carbon emissions, right?
To me, stakeholders, though, I think it definitely needs the word resident somehow, because it sounds almost more like we were gonna go ask town committees and things like that more than just go straight to the residents.
Okay, so who is it we want to send the survey to? We should be
Residents.
specific.
What if we just say residents and businesses?
I just wonder what, yeah, with the businesses, I mean,
They don't vote. This is
Right.
about, I think it should just be very simple, Cohasset residents,
Okay.
you know, the people who pay the bills.
Right.
But we're talking about decarbonizing the entire town, which would impact businesses.
yeah, but you're gonna, what are you gonna mandate that the businesses put solar on the roof, or, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going net zero for the entire community, it's the entire community.
Right,
How
but
about
they'll
the Cohasset
voluntarily have to make
Opposite?
changes. The businesses but
Yeah.
mostly this is about, I mean, the municipality of Cohasset, right, the town of Cohasset, and secondarily, the residents doing things voluntarily.
Well, I guess, Debbie, in your mind, what is the climate action plan? Is it just the town's usage and carbon emissions, or the municipal entities' carbon emissions, or is it the entire community?
I think it's the entire community, but the
Absolutely.
survey was to assess the residents' appetite for doing a climate action plan is what I'm thinking. You know, I think it's basically as the people who pay the bills to find out. And if you know, the questions which hopefully Barbara can pull up, because she's revised the questionnaire that they're directed really to residents, you know, and I just think to keep it clean, at least for this, you know, that's what I'm thinking. But I'm just one of you all, so it's how you all think.
I agree with Debbie. I think that first of all, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
It's really hard, Steve. So I'm wondering if it's just
How about
distance.
now? on my. Anyways, I agree with Debbie. To be meaningful, the climate action plan has to apply to the entire community, not just the municipal aspect of it, which is negligible compared to the whole community. So it's not worth doing. It's not going to be addressing the entire community. Now, we're not going to be able to coerce anything. That's legally, I don't think the town has the authority to do that, right? But nevertheless, the climate action plan should be a plan to decarbonize the entire community, all the residences, private residences as well, and the businesses. So this letter definitely has to go out to the residents. That has to be the decision for the survey. Perhaps the businesses also, even though they don't vote.
There's no reason that you can't have another one because I think the questions actually would sound different if they were for the businesses. So, this one would be more targeted just for residents was sort of always my thinking. And you're right, it's a plan for the entire town, but this is really just, to, anyway, that's how I
But what's
feel.
our ask to the select board? Because that's what this document is. Is it an ask to do a survey to business, residents, and other interested parties? Or is this just an ask to do a survey of residents to understand what the residents are interested in?
Can I ask a question before we go there? So it seems to me that by sending this out, we are predicating our ability to do the climate action plan based on the results of the survey. That's what I would infer if I were on the select board. Because we already have permission to go forward with the cap, right?
We don't have permission to go forward with the cap.
To
We have
investigate.
permission to investigate what it would entail.
So, but does that mean that if we get a positive feedback from the survey, that it would be incumbent upon the select board to say, yeah, we have to do the cap because, it's a majority. What if they think it should be a lot? I mean, is there any guidelines that you might think of that would be a slam dunk so that we could do the cap based on this survey? Because we're now kind of teeing up the survey almost as a go or no go phenomenon.
Yeah, so the way it worked in Hingham is they had a number of organizations that this town does not have, which were very Hingham specific, Hingham Net Zero.
Right.
And those organizations were pushing it. We don't have that. Right. So that's fact number one. Fact number two is that Hingham, they actually voted to go net zero. So they decided and voted as a town at their town meeting that they were going to go net zero. And so it was the voters of the town who drove that. And as part of that vote, they also voted that they would establish a climate action plan committee to draft the climate action plan. So that's a town vote. I don't think in Cohasset, and I don't think as part of a good process anyway, that we could take a wonderful survey result to the select board and the select board could say, okay, let's do it. Right.
I wonder if we could frame it in the light of the Climate Leaders Program and present to them on the Climate Leaders Program and say to them that if we want to become part of this, we do have to get a vote of town meeting to decarbonize by 2050. And that has to go before a town meeting. And this is part of our effort to do that is, well, one, we need that vote, and two, we need a plan.
So we have a number of rationales for pursuing a climate action plan, which are focused on the state regs, the role of municipalities, the regulatory requirements, risk mitigation, that if there's going to be mandates, flexibility, that if the town creates its own climate action plan, we control how we're going to move forward with decarbonization goals. grant eligibility. Communities with a climate action plan may be eligible for grants and funding. And I called it the Green Leader Program. Is it now called the Climate Leader Program? Is that the official name?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes,
And it's DOER or Mass CEC?
it's DOER.
Climate Leader Program. And then timeliness, just that there are other surrounding towns that have done it, and that gives us a timely opportunity to share resources and lessons learned. So there's a number of reasons, and it's very focused on good governance. Just because I felt that would be the most non-controversial set of reasons to explain to the select board, the leaders of the town, why it is worth understanding more about how the residents of the town feel. But I think Barbara's question is a good one, which is, what do the results of the survey mean? What is it going to be used for?
One other little thing.
Mhm.
As you go down on that list, the last one, the timeliness, there are a lot of towns that look just like us, even on the South Shore, North Shore, near the ocean, that have all adopted a climate action plan. So I'm not suggesting that we should jam it in there, but there's a lot besides Hingham, right? So I think it just might inure to our benefit. And yes,
We just put E.G. Hingham because they're right
EG.
next door.
Right. But yeah, so how do we frame it with respect to the survey? Do we predicate hey, should we say that, assuming that we get do we define what it means in terms of results of the survey and whether that, can we do that? In other words, I guess the thesis is that my thesis is that if we do a survey, especially the way that we've worded our survey, and Deb worked very hard on it, we all did, to make sure that it was a positive thing. It wasn't, do you believe that we're going to be devastated in the next 10 years by, horrible weather events? We were very constructive, and I can't imagine, I'll just, we can take a survey right here, that we won't have a majority of respondents saying climate change is a problem.
So, I mean, I'm interested in hearing what the objective of the survey is by the people who designed it.
All right. Well, first of all, it was just lifted from Hingham's. So it was basically lifted, and it was the questions that they felt that they wanted to ask the town. I felt when I was doing it, it was, and it seemed to be very directed to the residents. I made a few changes. Barbara has made more that are very excellent. So I was thinking we'll work off her copy to show you what we're talking about. Obviously, it's going to need tweaking. And but the thinking that I thought was just basically sort of an assessment of town residents, not, businesses are separate, they have separate needs and separate interests, and just to see what people think, what their concerns are, and if we were to do a plan, what it would include. And basically that was it, just sort of a, like Hingham did, get a lay of the land, and then ask people if they're, willing to participate. And one of the things that going forward, unlike Hingham, we may have to do a fair amount of things ourselves, which I think there are enough templates out there that there's a lot of things we could do to help offset the cost. We're not the first rodeo in town. So I guess that's it. It's, basically, are you concerned? And then, if you are concerned, what are the most, the biggest issues to you? What keeps you up at night? And then, what kind of things do you want to see in a plan? And it's basically, that's That's it. And I don't know if we want to move from this and look at the survey. Barbara, can you put it
Sure.
up on your
Sure.
screen?
Yeah, and from my standpoint, like the reason why we decided to do this stepped approach with the survey first is because we were told that there's no more grants to pay for this. So, besides outside of doing it ourselves, I just don't think we should do as a first option. I think we should pay somebody that knows what they're doing to do it. And I think in order to do that, you need to ask for money. In order to ask for money, it'd be great to have data supporting your argument, creating a groundswell.
And it's interesting because the survey in Hingham was sent out after the net zero goals had been voted on and approved, after the committee had been formed, after the effort was funded by the Hingham Municipal Light Plant, and after it was underway. So the timing is different. It doesn't mean the survey can't be used for our purposes, right? But I think the question the select board's going to ask is, what's the point of the survey?
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe if you could have a conversation with a member of the select board, or maybe even Michelle or Chris, to see if this is the right approach for the first approach, or maybe this comes after, and maybe the first approach is to ask for funding, ask the town if they would allot some amount of funding towards the creation of a plan, with the idea that if we were to become a climate leader, that we could get somewhere between like $15,000 and $20,000 for a decarbonization roadmap, but that's only for the municipal side. It's the decarbonizing the municipal side, and then so that'd be part of the puzzle. And then if we could get additional funding to help piece the rest together.
Well, if you look at our greenhouse gas initiatives, the municipal side, according to or the inventory, I mean, the municipal side contributes so little, really. I think it was 4% or something, Josh? It's a very little contribution. I mean, the real hit is the residential side. And so anyway, I mean, that's where the changes need to be made, as far as I'm concerned, when we look at our greenhouse gas inventory for the town. But anyway, we could go quick through this, and you could kind of see what Hingham did, and then what we revised a bit, and just obviously it needs more tweaking, more thinking, but anyway, shall we do that? Go through?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I just want to go back to what's the purpose of the survey? I thought, given where we are, given what we've been tasked with doing, we wanted to ask the select board to allow us to send out a survey to residents as a part of our information gathering, tied to ultimately providing information and making a recommendation on what the town should do with respect to a climate action plan. And that this survey was a piece of information we didn't have, which is, how do people in town feel about it?
Right.
Right, and to that end, almost a lot of so we did a list of all of the towns and cities in Massachusetts that have put together and finished a climate action plan. And in many cases, they conducted a survey in order to not only get a temperature check on the residents, but also engage them and begin to have town meetings and forums in which to engage residents in why you should think that a cap is good, and how you can become part of the cap initiative, right? So it went hand in hand with it. It was supposed to be collaborative, like not a group of people that were on a board or a select board or a committee.
Right, but that was after the town had decided. For those towns that had already decided they were pursuing a climate action plan.
Not in all the cases, though.
No.
Not in all the
some of these, even some of these like kits to do, how do you start your own climate action plan? They talk about, I mean, if you go online and Mass Save, they have kits on how do you do this in your own town. It's about, you got to start with, the groundswell and
Right.
resident.
And so that's part of what we're looking to do with this survey, but we are tasked with trying to explore basically what the pros and cons are of the town of Cohasset pursuing a climate action plan, and then from that exploration, giving a recommendation on how to proceed.
Right.
We've identified how many, I mean, there's like a whole presentation on this, right, that we would give the select board. And that is who's already done it, why have they done it, what are some reasons they say they've done it, what are the benefits of doing it. We already lay out some of the benefits and asking for justification on the survey. We don't necessarily have to keep those in there, but there's a lot of reasons to do it outside of the relevant reason, right, which is finding a way to reduce greenhouse gases emitted by the town. And there's rationale that even somebody who doesn't believe in climate change but does understand that the state is decarbonizing would feel good governance would justify going down this path. So I think we're solidifying that through our information gathering and exploration. And the survey, as it was presented at our last meeting, was we don't even know how people in town feel about a climate action plan or about climate in general. And so I thought this was being developed as a way to start to engage the community, but also to get a final piece of information that we don't have that would be helpful in making a recommendation to the select board on how to proceed.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
That's good to me.
Well, given what you just said, shall we go through and see if we're thinking along those lines and whether this is the start of something that can achieve that?
Or we
Yeah,
can, we can circulate it as well, but yeah, we can go
Yeah. Oh,
through.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I
only
think
5 or
so,
6
right? Because we'd be attaching the survey to the request.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to go through it?
It's not long.
Okay, I'll just zip through it.
Okay, can we start at the beginning? That there's no Cohasset Climate Action Planning Committee.
No, there is not, but that is, I mean,
So
none of this is, I mean, that was assuming we can call ourselves the Alternative Energy Committee. I didn't know who to put, so.
And you kind of substituted what Hingham had. You just
Yeah.
kind of stuck Cohasset, right? Which was easier to do. This is definitely a draft, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I would say, who is doing the survey? Is it the select board? Is it us?
It's us.
Okay, so the Cohasset Alternative Energy Committee.
All right, so we can fix that. Hold on. I'm a little tired here. I'm working on very little sleep. Okay, I got that. So let's go through it. Just a few questions. Straightforward.
Mhm.
Second one.
And all of these need, tweaking. I mean, these were some things that Barbara and I were thinking about. Some were taken from Hingham, but
Okay.
Do we define climate action plan as being a community-wide decarbonization plan? Do we define what a climate action plan is?
I think it's so well known by now. It's in the paper almost, quite frequently, but I guess you want to define it?
I don't think it's so well known. I don't know, right? Part of why we're having the survey is to find out. But I
you
know
don't
there was
think that simple definition will work? That
Yeah.
was from
What?
Hingham.
Planning action plan, so that's the definition.
We could say as is a guide to help a town reduce instead of serves as. You want to do that? So we define it. Sorry,
Oh, that's all right.
up to you.
No, I like serves as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It defines it. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. Okay, so why do these definitely need rethinking?
Well, maybe.
No, that was your note to me, wasn't it, Deb?
Yes, that was my note to you. And you've actually rethought some of them since I put that note there. So.
Okay, and then I think we're coming down to the getting toward the end. Whoops. A mistake. Get rid of that later. And that's the end. We do sort of imply that there will be a climate action plan, especially.
Yeah, it was a little bit poking the bear, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be, we gotta have one. I mean.
Well, what does everybody think of this? I agree with Deb, obviously, but what do you think? You want me to we'll just circulate it and you can all review it.
Is there any initial feedback?
Don't all shout at once.
Josh and Steve have already seen it.
I'm on board.
So, our ask of the select board would be to let us distribute a survey similar to this. We don't have to give this to them as a final document, do we? Or does it have to be? We just have the select board to allow us to send the survey out to assess the interest among town residents in developing the climate action plan, and then show them this draft survey and get their approval, hopefully. Is that what we're doing?
I thought not. I thought, am I mistaken? I thought we have, I thought we were just going to go ahead and do it.
No, we don't. We have permission to explore, but we don't want to send out a survey to the residents without getting the permission of the select board and having their blessing.
Right.
What-
So
yeah,
you're gonna attach that to the,
right to the letter.
yeah. And then you all also put in it, there was also included the other ways we were gonna do this. This was, gonna go hopefully in the town manager's email, we'll have a link and, and we would have other,
Yeah, so
ways
let's go
to
back.
disseminate it.
Right, so let's go back to the draft. So again, given that we don't have a vote on the town meeting floor to go net zero or create a climate action planning committee or develop a climate action plan. What we are doing is we're using an existing permission and authorization that was given to us as a 2023 initiative to explore what it would take, what are the benefits, and make a recommendation on whether or not, based on our research, we think the town should pursue a climate action plan. This, we have the permission to do that because it was one of our initiatives that they approved in the spring. So this is one component of that. I think we've already done a ton of research. We've already identified which towns in Massachusetts have a climate action plan. We understand reasons why they have a climate action plan. And so this request to survey Cohasset residents in the context of where we are, not where other towns are, but where we are, is this is a final piece of information to complete our assessment, to be able to come to you and give you an informed overview of rationale of why or why not Cohasset should pursue a climate action plan. Right?
I
So
think you say it right here, Tanya, where you say the committee does not have a grasp of potential interests by Cohasset residents. The level of townwide interest and support is an important consideration in recommending how to proceed. That's
exactly
what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I know.
assessing what they think.
That's exactly right. So this is why the background and the challenge are identified up front, because we already have their permission to understand what it takes to do a climate action plan.
I think we should probably include, to your point, Tanya, like a good definition of what it is, because is this something binding that has, milestones that they need to hit, or like, what happens when we don't hit our 50% reduction by 2040, whatever. Those types of questions I could see being asked is all.
Well, and that's what I think we answer when we make our final presentation on this issue to the select board. But here we can just use the definition that would be in the survey, which is a climate action plan serves as a guide. What was the rest of the definition?
To get to net
zero. I'll find it for you.
I think Hingham says, a pathway to get to net zero or something like that.
Okay.
But that's very
serves as a
specific.
guide to help a town reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, typically with the goal of reaching net zero emissions. The other thing we could do is state somewhere in the beginning of the survey what Massachusetts has voted on, what is instituted in terms of our climate goals as a Commonwealth.
Right, because we did have that. And
Definitely do that,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah. Climate goals, yeah.
So we can level set, so whoever's reading it says, oh yeah, that's right, or I forgot, or maybe they don't know.
Yep, we've got it right in there. You've got it right
And
there.
I think we should assume they don't know,
Right.
honestly. Or if they know, some wanted to forget and some want to know. So let's, I think, because again, nobody can deny good governance. And this is sort of where I think a safe space is, given the makeup of our town and given the makeup of our leadership, some of whom do care extensively about carbon emissions and some who don't. I mean, that's just the reality.
Right.
So I think part of our research has shown there are reasons other than wanting to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for towns to pursue a climate action plan. Because, among other things, Massachusetts has already established decarbonization goals.
Right. Right.
And we don't live in a bubble.
Yeah, so we'll drop that into the survey, just as an information introductory paragraph.
Yes.
I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's excellent.
Okay, so this basically lays, you know, and again, I think with Hingham, I don't think they positioned it as being necessarily tied to the Global Warming Solutions Act. I think there was enough there were enough groups of interested pockets of people in Hingham who were passionate about this issue, passionate about decarbonization, that it was about, we've got to do something, we've got to do something now. And they were able to get it passed through. We don't have those groups, right? I mean, we have passionate people. We have people who are passionate about it. We also have people in Cohasset who I think are passionately against it. And by the way, Hingham does too, because some of them responded to the survey and their comments were not so
I
nice.
saw them. I read that whole thing. Yeah, there was some
Yeah.
playing with that survey, I'll tell you.
Yep. So, okay. So here we have, everybody can still see this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
The
we've got
other
the
missing-
background.
Yeah, the last missing piece that Hingham had was HMLP, offered up $80,000 in funding.
Well, so HMLP plays two roles. One is they have a local electric utility who can purchase whatever the town says it should purchase. We don't necessarily have that entity because we don't have our own municipal light plant. But the other, Jenny, you're absolutely right, is HMLP funded the study. And so they had funding. But the funding came, I think, after the vote.
Right, yeah. First they decided to decarbonize, then they decided to create this sustainability coordinator position alongside with this plan and a committee to act on the creation of this plan.
Right, but yes, well, and prior to that, they had the net zero goals and establishment of a committee to create the plan.
Right.
And then as part
Right,
of the
which
plan,
all the town meeting warrants, that could be something good to share with the select board too, from Hingham to say, look, this is sort of the path work and the framework of how we could do this. And this is what we need. And now there's some funding associated with doing this. As part
yeah,
of
I mean, that's the
meeting.
whole, that was the initiative that we were approved to pursue. But this is, so the background basically says, no surprise, you told us to go do this. We're looking into this. Here's what a climate action plan is. And here's the greater context within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts about why the climate action plan is relevant. So that's the background.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is that we've done a number of things, including an understanding of what's required, but we just have no idea what Cohasset residents, what their interest levels are.
Right.
And that's an important consideration for us in recommending how to proceed.
Right. Perfect.
Okay. So here's our request.
Right, potential interest of Cohasset residents. Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Okay. So then here's our ask. Here's our request. We would like you, the select board, to approve us to use surveys, community conversations and forums and other communication avenues to understand Cohasset concerns regarding climate. So here's the question. Are we asking too much for where we are today?
I don't think we're doing forums. I mean, we're just doing a survey.
So at
Well,
this
Josh, I
stage,
thought we talked about maybe wanting to do two forums, maybe.
Right, but I think Josh's point is that we don't want to, now we're committing ourselves. So let's do we have to have 4 positive responses to all of these things as opposed to let's just get the survey done. If the survey confirms that there's enough interest in town, again, we'll be subjective. At least we have something to go with them.
Yeah.
Go to the select board with, right? Josh, is that what you meant?
That's what I think, yeah.
I agree with you.
Perfect.
and again, I think what we as a committee have been so successful in, why we've been so successful is because we help baby step things along, right? And this is a baby step. A survey is a baby step. A survey, forum, conversations, that's a lot, right? We're asking them for a lot. So if we're okay with just the survey, let's just specify we want your approval to use a survey to understand Cohasset concerns regarding climate change and potential impacts of climate change on the town, and community-wide opinions on whether, how to develop a climate action plan.
Well, frankly, I would be more forceful. Assess community-wide options on whether, how to go ahead with a climate action plan. How to develop is yet another step in this process, right?
So whether to
How to
proceed,
go forward. Yeah, how to proceed, how to go forward, as opposed to how to develop. Then how to develop is yet another step, right? Rather than just say,
well, we already know how to develop.
right,
We've already done that
how to
research.
proceed, exactly.
So on whether, how to proceed with developing a climate, with pursuing,
How to
with a-
develop, how to, yeah, how to proceed, how to,
Why don't we just say whether to proceed with a climate action plan?
Hmm.
Then you're kind of pinning, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really
We're
want,
pinning it down to this. So we're basing it on
yeah, I don't want
survey.
it to be undermined and
Okay.
destroyed.
I would just keep A. Why do we even need the bottom part? Just understand. I mean, you can maybe just add it into one bullet point, but understand, the class its concerns and appetite for, I don't know, or uh,
We don't want to say anything about going forward. Don't we want to have this allow us to go ahead with the climate action plan if we get a good response?
we can't,
Yeah.
even if I think this is a
Well-
piece of information.
How about just assess community-wide opinion on a climate action plan? So you've got the first one, which talks about climate change and the impacts. And the second one was, well, how do you feel about a climate action plan?
I'm with Josh. I think we should just maybe elaborate a little bit more on A, take the A out and get rid of the B.
I hear what you're saying too, Tom, though. I think as long as it doesn't hang everything on the results.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be a yes or no.
Right. I agree.
Right, and understand Cohasset concerns regarding climate change in order to proceed with with a climate action plan.
I think understand Cohasset concerns. I think A is not enough.
I agree.
I think if we don't want to hang it on to a climate action plan, then because we're afraid of the answer.
Okay, how about whether to kick off, assess community-wide options as to whether and how to kick off a climate action plan. Something like that, an action.
I think that's too aggressive. I think we're not there yet.
Whether the first action issue here is whether and how to kick off a climate action plan, whether to kick off, right? But at least we took the proceed or develop gets another layer, right? Another step along the way. I just felt more comfortable saying, I know it's a little aggressive, but at least the weather is in there, which opts out of doing a climate action plan in the event that the select board assesses the surveys and determines that 70% may be not enough, it should be 75 or whatever. But at least we have something in there that allows us to pull the trigger if it's clear that.
Yeah.
How about saying assess community-wide opinions on the process of developing a climate action plan?
Yeah, that's good. That's benign.
But is it opinion on the process of developing a plan, or
It's
just
it's an
Yes,
opinion on the plan.
process. No, on the process on the process of developing. So that is not about,
It's really an opinion on climate, climate change itself
it's
It's
not at
it's an
all.
in the plan.
isn't it an opinion on the development of a plan?
No, it's the process, I think, about
Yeah.
what goes into it, you know, moving forward, what's included, who's involved.
But we don't want their opinion on that.
Well, but I think this, is it better?
Anyway,
So can I just step back for a moment? Because in going through this exercise, and my goal or part of my job, I feel as chair of this committee, is figuring out how to get to yes. Right?
Yep.
People on this committee have passions. They're passionate about things. And I like to work within the authority we've been given, the opportunity we've been given, our mission statement to basically get to yes, to pursue the passions that the people on this committee have, that people in town have. And as a result, we've been very successful. So in addressing this, I became very concerned, exactly as everybody is, that this isn't about saying, do we need a climate action plan or not? That's not, we're not asking the residents in this survey something so straightforward, because I think it's very possible, regardless of what their answers are, we might go to the select board and say, look, people in town aren't really interested in doing this. However, from a good governance perspective, we need to. And here's why. And that goes to some of the findings we've already had about a rationale for pursuing a climate action plan, which may or may not need to be included in this request to do a survey. But I think what we're saying is, you've asked us to go and scope out what's required, why we as a town would decide to do it or not do it, and what are the costs and the benefits, basically. I mean, it wasn't elaborated on like that, but that's sort of what I think they're expecting from us, because that's what we do. We inform the town on these types of opportunities. So a piece of information we don't know, and this came out at our last meeting, is what do residents think? What do people in the town think? We have 25% Democrats, 25% Republicans, 50% unenrolled. That means 50% of the town sort of make up their mind based on whatever, right? Whatever is making up their mind. So what I heard at the last meeting was, we're missing a key piece of information, which is, what's the general sentiment? Not because it's definitive, not because it's going to drive our recommendation, but because it's a piece of information that we should know and that the select board should know. And if there's a lot of public support behind it, as there was in Hingham, then that's a reason to proceed, because the people in town want us to do this. If there's not a lot of support, or people aren't even thinking about it, and there will be some who don't, but we don't know, then we still know, in a way it doesn't matter, maybe, because Massachusetts has decarbonization goals.
Right.
Municipalities are a key avenue through which the Commonwealth is going to achieve that decarbonization. That there are municipal requirements that may be partially funded through grants, which we've already seen, and maybe unfunded regulatory mandates at some point. That moving forward with a climate action plan would mitigate regulatory risk, identify our Cohasset specific ways to achieve those reductions, and provide a pathway for meeting or exceeding those initiative goals at the lowest cost with the lowest risk given our situation. If we have a climate action plan, we're likely to have more flexibility to achieve those goals on the timeframes we've set, versus what may end up happening, which is anybody who doesn't have one has like a generic set of targets that the state establishes. And that there's grant eligibility, which we do know for sure, and we have identified, such as the DOER Climate Leader Program. And then on top of all of that, there are communities in Massachusetts that already have these plans, We have neighboring towns that are developing theirs, and this gives us a timely opportunity to sort of share the resources and lessons learned, and we're already capitalizing on that. So in that context, why do we need to do the survey? Because it's important to know what residents in the town think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to start to educate residents in the town that it may be, regardless of what you want to do or not want to do, we as a town have to, from a good governance perspective, have to do a climate action plan. Like, forget the money that, the town doesn't care about money is one thing we've discovered. We can talk about all the money we've saved and people can applaud, but saying to a town, you have the opportunity to get grant money is not a driver for the town to do something. But from a good governance perspective, from mitigating our risk, from being able to comply with state mandates, get in front of those mandates so we're not stuck, that is, I think, a very compelling rationale, regardless of where people in the town are. But
Well,
all of that said, we want to know what residents in the town are thinking and how up to speed on like a climate action plan concept they are.
and don't most grants, I know, and for example, when I chaired the first open space committee, we wrote the first open space report. We had to have community involvement and we had to have community assessment. And we did a survey, and that survey actually was a paper survey back before they had any of this high-tech stuff. And we had over 600 responses in that. And it was so, the survey usually is part of most government programs. They require a community involvement of some sort, right? I mean,
right. And that's where the conversations in the forum and all of that, as there's a different set of communications as we're developing a plan versus if we're exploring whether or not people want to develop a plan or how they feel about a plan, or is this a concern that they have, right, related to the flooding and impacts of climate. So, Steve, your hand's up. Did you want to ask a question?
Yes. I just want to express the opinion that if I were to be the one making the pitch to the select board this time, it would be very simple. I would simply say that the Alternative Energy Committee is interested in approaching the select board at a later date to make a case for developing a climate action plan, explaining the pros and cons of it. And in order to do this, we need to survey the residents of Cohasset. And today we are asking your permission to do this survey, period. That's it. That's all we're doing. Seems very simple to me. We're just asking for their permission to do a survey so that we can come back at a later date, hopefully within, not too distant, maybe 2 months later, and explain to them results of the survey and why we should or should not develop a climate action.
Okay, so for the document that we're going through right now, let's talk about if people agree with that approach. We need to create the background, right?
yeah.
We need to talk about our challenge, which is we need to know the interest of Cohasset residents in order to consideration. It's a consideration in recommending how to proceed. And so we're asking for approval of the survey to.
I mean, you could just, what about, just one line, just understand Cohasset residents' opinions on climate change and the necessity of a climate action plan.
That's good. The other thing I thought about is instead of the B we had is integrate the findings of the survey in the climate action plan process.
We're not there yet.
Okay.
Is that?
I mean,
concerns, maybe
ask why you're doing a survey.
Right? Opinions instead of concerns, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Concerns here.
They might not be concerned. No, I'm saying you just opinions instead of concerns.
Yep.
Yeah, that needs Cohasset residents' opinions.
Right.
Okay,
I think we
Yeah.
should just be sure to make the point to the select board that all we're doing today at that meeting is to ask them for the permission to conduct the survey so that when we come before them later to make the argument for doing a climate action plan, it will be able to make a more informed presentation. We'll be able to tell them not just what we think, but what the residents of Cohasset think.
right. And so that's where we are so far. Background, challenge, request.
So
Okay.
far, so
I'm
good.
sure we need anything really other than I'm not sure it should be more than a 5-minute presentation to select board. I don't know. We have to have a lengthy argument about climate action plans and
Well,
talk
that's
about
why
it.
we're trying to phrase this so we don't. Like in my mind,
Yeah.
we want to do
I
a
mean-
survey. So let's
Very
figure out how to
effective.
ask for the survey in the least controversial way without assuming we're going to do a climate action plan, without, just
Well,
not
just-
ruffling any feathers.
we would like to approach them in a future date about developing a climate action plan and see what they thought about it. But first, we want to do a survey so that we can make it more, so that the select board can make a more reasoned decision, and we can.
I think we've.
You know,
I think it's pretty good, right?
I think this is great what we
Yeah,
have here.
this-
I
do one.
think it's good to start, we're starting to actually, prep them, right? Educate them, get them thinking about this. That's why I think all the things you have at the end, Tanya, that you put in, those can keep showing up because it's kind of like, we're literally just starting to, educate them about these things going forward rather than just springing on them that we want to do a survey and find out and for a climate action plan. This is sort of priming the pump, I think.
And education every step of the way, communication every step of the way is key. That is why it takes so long to do these climate action plans, because of that component. But so let's just keep going. I think 1, 2, and 3 are great. And now the survey details. How much detail and remember, every time we complicate the ask, we're increasing the probability of a no. So how do we simplify our survey details to take it to what we actually need? Like, I just don't know. Is the town manager willing to do it in a weekly email? Sure, there's no cost. Can we reach out to traditional media if it's earned media and there's no cost? Sure. Social media, we're allowed to do that. Physical notices, okay, do we really need physical? Do we need the posters and the flyers? Do we want their permission for that? Where are we going to put those? And then the insert in our utility bills, which is not the electric utility like it was in Hingham, but it'd be like our, I don't even know how to do it. If they're open to it, usually they're pretty cagey, and often utilities have like a 12-month plan on what's going into their bills.
No,
And
it'd
it
be
costs
our
money.
bills. It would be like the water bill.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
costs money.
Yeah, it does.
So you want to ditch the D&E?
I would leave it in there and let the town say no, because it could just be like a QR code and, like a little just blurb at the end of the water bill or something. Let the
But we
town
don't
say-
have a budget.
Well, why don't we just
No, when they-
qualify and just say, such as?
It's when they do
I mean-
when they do any of their mailings, we would just be like an additional page within that mailing.
It's not that it's costly.
And we want to do it fast. So can we do that quickly, D&E or any other?
I think, like, for example, the posters and flyers could be something sitting in the storefronts, QR code in the storefronts, QR code at the clerk's office. I think that most certainly would be easy to do. Again, we have no budget as a committee, so I don't know where we're getting the funding to do anything printy.
However, Tanya, I know I've mentioned before, because I did ask Michelle, that was one of my things I was supposed to find out, and I know I've reported it before, and she said we could never have a dedicated fund, but that they would find money for our work. So, I mean, I don't know how much, but but that's how she wanted it left. She said, we will find money for your work. Now, I think we just qualify it and say that these are, things we're considering. We're not going to guarantee necessarily.
Let's take out the last one because that creates caginess.
I mean, that creates the widest distribution of the survey though, but
It
it's really
doesn't.
depend-
It doesn't.
It
because-
doesn't? You said
Do
it's
you
every
read-
single
Do
person?
you read your inserts?
I mean, if it came to me, yeah, I guess. I mean, how are you gonna? You got 8,000 people in town, right? I mean, how many people are gonna see the town email? I mean, 100.
Yeah,
Where can you post the posters and flyers? Where do you post them?
Let's just
School?
keep physical notices, and that includes mailings. That's a physical.
Yes. Is there a school newsletter that goes out that we could put a survey in?
Yep, if they would let us.
And the
Yes.
schools themselves, we can put flyers in every school.
well, the only way we're going to do the survey and any of those things is with a QR code, right? I mean, everything is going to go to an online. So it's just basically notifying, getting that QR code out.
Yeah, and so Montana recently did this. She did a composting survey and she put it out in on social media through the town's managers' weekly emails and to the schools. And then she posted flyers. You probably saw the flyers downtown in storefronts. So I don't think that they're going to be totally thrown off by this survey.
Does anybody remember how we did it in the aggregation program, how we put a flyer in the water bill? As I recall, it was not a big deal. It didn't cost very much money, and we did it fairly quickly.
I'm sorry, that was for the aggregation program?
Yes, for the aggregation program, we put a flyer in the water bill to tell people to come to town meeting and vote for that article for the aggregation program.
Yeah,
And
look, here's
it
what I
cost a
think.
lot of money, and we did it fairly quickly, and it was not a big deal.
Well, it was also a program that had been approved on the town meeting, at a town meeting.
No, this was a notice to ask people to come to town meeting and hopefully support that, vote for that article. Nothing about past town meeting previously, I think. This was just to get the attention and interest of people in town.
So
That's
I think we've got physical notices. I think we can most certainly pursue every avenue available, right? This isn't
Right.
subsumed in that would be if we can get the permission to include a flyer. We can do whatever we want if we get the money and if we get permission from the gatekeepers.
I still think you should put I still think because that you do have to have permission to put something in the bills. It's a separate thing. So I think we would have to give them warning that we want to do that. And once again, this is, these are not, we're not guaranteeing that we're going to do all this. These are just our potential sources of communication.
We don't say that. So the
Well,
survey
we can qualify it.
So the survey would be electronic, right? We don't have to say specifically how.
Right. Get rid of all that. With links and cure through the potential sources or something. Through the following potential sources.
Yeah, through some of the following, make it vague.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so now we've got how we're gonna do it. Cost anticipated to be minimal, as it's intended to be digital or earned marketing. AEC members are volunteering their time. Some staff support could be valuable. Printing would require funding. Right?
Right. Well, printing, yeah, would require funding. Yes.
Is there anything else that would require funding?
Printing of all things, posters, flyers, and yeah, so that's a generic, right?
Yeah. Printing. Okay. So then community conversations. So in addition to this, is this a step too far? The community conversations, do we take this out? For now.
Yes, is my vote.
Like
I
step,
agree.
Yep.
All right. And then this is education, right? We start to
Yes.
educate. Is there, and we can, there was a bullet in here I took out related to the results of our greenhouse gas inventory. And I took it out because I felt like this was not the right way to introduce those results. Like it's going to be coming out of the blue because we haven't talked about what the greenhouse gas inventory showed. But
And we
I
don't
do
want them to
think
send us back to the drawing board.
no, we don't. And I also wanted these to be the least political reasons, because the ones, and Barbara and I had this conversation, the ones who are going to support the climate action plan are going to support it no matter what we put in here. And the ones who are going to not want to even bother pursuing this, we just don't necessarily want to get into a political quagmire.
Just out of, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. We're asking for permission to do a survey.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we even need to educate on a climate action plan? They should be aware of it.
Who?
Priming the pump. They said priming
Well,
the pump.
haven't we primed the pump already? Or maybe we should lead with this and maybe it's the title of this.
I think it's the title, because
It's the
again,
title. It's
we're
not the
trying to
rationale.
neutralize rationale for understanding.
What we're trying to do is understand the community's
Sentiment.
desire.
Sentiment, yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
No,
That's I'm sorry, that no good.
brain turned
Yeah,
to cream of
but maybe
wheat.
this is too much too. Like we're just getting too much. We the one pager was what we like keeping it to one page. Like we're still selling here. We don't we've already established
Yes.
what we're
No,
asking for.
right, I agree with you, but that's better wording. Understanding reasons, understanding, I'm tired, sorry.
Yeah,
Impetus for a climate action plan, maybe.
Understanding.
That's good. I'd keep it simple.
I don't like that at all. I'm sorry. But I think what Tanya's saying is that, there is surprising resistance. And I think that some of the resistors need to see some of this, so.
Okay, understanding the context of climate action plans.
No, sorry. I know
So
that.
what is the point of this? Do we need it?
that was my point.
Yeah, I don't. I don't necessarily think we need it, but
I think you're defending, what climate action plans can offer the town.
right,
You
but
know?
we're not even at that step yet where we're like,
How
We-
about momentum of climate action plans
See, I think
in our state?
we're getting ahead of it. We're just asking.
well,
for
that's
a
exactly
survey.
right.
Yeah, we're just asking for the survey.
All we
Yeah, but
want
I
to do
like-
is the
I
survey.
like the rest of this, though. I like the.
Yeah, I
rest
know
of
it's good stuff. I think it's great
It's-
stuff. I think it'll come in handy later on. I just don't, at this stage, when we're just asking for a survey, it's kind of just extra.
it. All right.
I mean, it's a little bit extra.
Tanya, did you save that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you've got it somewhere.
Because
so.
that could be in a cover letter but we just want to get the survey out. We want to get the temperature of the town.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So so if we're attaching the survey, are we attaching the survey here? Are we developing a survey with input from town committees and the select board?
Well, I think you could just say, a draft survey for discussion purposes or something, is attached. Because I think I would love to find out if there's feedback, if there's things that they want asked on it, if they have things that.
How about just attached as our, draft of our survey, or is our proposed survey? Keep it simple.
Look, got it to one page.
That's the goal. Until we add the survey, but that's all right. So, because they're going to want to know, well, what are you going to ask? Right.
Right.
Yes.
And I think we should ask for their feedback of questions, because I would be curious to know, I mean, that was the whole point, I think, it's, circulating it, asking them, and then maybe we ask some other, once we get their approval, then I think it would quickly, I think we'd go to other town boards and just say, get their feedback. Because if we're going to do this, I think we want to get the other towns on committees on board, make them feel like they're a little bit involved.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Well, because they're going to be working on the climate action plan, and they'll be having input. And so I think if we don't ask their input early on, I just think politically it's a good thing to do. That's all. I mean,
But if we're using the survey specifically to survey residents, because I'm just trying to think within the context of what the committees do, are they?
well, I mean, you think about the harbor committee. There's a lot of committees that may want to know. And I mean, this is maybe our only shot at really going out and surveying the residents.
I know. So if the harbor committee comes to us and says, we'd like you to add 5 questions on the harbor and harbor resiliency, and whether people want to start building up retaining walls, or whether they want to do, like, are we open to that?
That's a big question. I feel that those are valuable questions. If they think they are, I feel like other boards, I mean, we're going to try to build consensus for this, because we're going to have to probably end up doing a fair amount on our own. And I think we're going to need, these boards and stuff. And if we're surveying the town, they're going to say, well, this is, all of our climate action plan. And, we should have, there are things we want to know too. I don't know. That's my.
A lot of cooks in the kitchen though. That's, we already got a lot of cooks, right? We're trying to, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I mean, it's all kind of interrelated, but I think we should manage it ourselves.
I think if this survey is specifically to address decarbonization, that we want to keep it to that we don't want to involve other committees. I just think it's going to muddy the water and it's going to take a really long time to get it done.
It'll be 2025 before we get this the thing out the door.
Anytime you create something by committee, it's one thing, then you add in multiple committees. So I look, and I agree, though, there's a process, and getting people on board is the process. That, by the way, is what the purpose of a climate action plan is. It's not the document at the end of the day. It's the process that gets us there. And it's just like a strategic plan for a business. The value is in the conversations and the discussions and the agreement and consensus building that occurs through the process of building the document. That's the true value. The document is something you can take to the bank for grants or for whatever. But we're now at one page. It's asking for permission to do a survey. We present that to them. Their questions can be like, what questions are in the survey? Well, we can share that a draft with you now if you want to have that discussion now, or if there's somebody on, like, when they ask that question, which they will, what's our response? Or do we attach it to the request?
Just attach it.
Okay.
I think.
Attach it. Let them have at it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Let's go. Let's go for it.
All right. So we've got a one-pager cover. It lays down out. We've gone through it. I think it's been sort of effective, although we're now at 10:30, but that's okay. This is very valuable. We've got the one pager. We've got a draft of the survey that we've gone through. And so is there one more bite at the apple the subcommittee wants to make to just finalize it? And then we send it to Jean as part of our request to get on their agenda. And one of the things we want to talk to you about is the survey in pursuit of our 2023 initiative tied to understanding a climate action plan.
And I have to amend the survey by adding just the piece about what Massachusetts is doing.
And
Right.
there were a couple of categories I think we should think about. So I think if everybody looked at it and looked at some of those categories, you know, some of, I think that would be great. And it is in a Google Doc, so we should be able to work on it. And although I don't know why it seems to be creating new ones instead of one that we're working on. So,
Well,
but, and the question is, I mean, I did it in Google Forms. I sort of polled the, you know, Steve and Josh and Barbara, and everybody feels okay with Google Forms. Doesn't have to stay there, but it is free, very flexible.
Okay, can we just have the subcommittee make a decision on some of these logistics?
Yeah.
And final. I think the content, I feel very comfortable with the content and the direction. And how do other people feel? Because I think that was the point of this discussion.
Yeah.
To get the
Yes.
committee behind this 100%.
I would just recommend before you would send it to Jean to talk with Michelle or Chris. Send,
course.
you know, send it to them, let them know that this is happening. Get their feedback. And maybe Michelle or Chris can offer, you know, some financial support that would help make this, you know, more appealing or easier on the committee.
Okay, so does the subcommittee want to finalize this and then discuss with Michelle?
I'd like
And
to
with
go through
Chris?
you, Tanya.
Okay.
I at least that's how I feel. I think we should we'll sort of clean up some of that, and anybody else please look at it and you know think about some of the wording in it, and then hopefully maybe in a week we've got the memo done and we just clean that up, and in 1 week I'll send it to you, Tanya,
Mhm.
and then we go from there. Does that sound good?
Is everybody okay with that approach?
Yes.
Okay, so we get Michelle on board, let her know what we want to do. Hopefully she can arrange for some funding so that when the select board says, you know, how much do you need? And Chris, do we have funding for it? Chris says, yeah, we've got, you know, what are we talking about? Like a couple $100, 1,000? What's our ask on the money? Why doesn't the subcommittee think through that? Because
Okay.
they're going to ask us, what do you need? Hopefully.
Funding of a climate action plan.
They're not going to give us that. So we're first asking for the survey.
It's
And the money-
amazing how much money we just approved at town meeting, though.
That's exactly why they won't give it to us at this point. It doesn't mean we won't get it in some form, but they're going to obviously, part of our exploration is finding out if we can get grant funding for it. Is there money out there for this, or have we missed that boat? And if we don't, you know, is it an investment that has an ROI because we make the investment in a climate action plan that then gets us in the door for the climate leader program, which has another round of $1 million of grant funding, like the Green Communities Act, right? We're bringing in $1 million. If we get, when will we find out, Ginny, about the grant you just submitted?
We should find out early February.
Okay, so that's going to be after some of this, but it's going to be before our big ask. And I think, look, we brought $1 million into the town, plus not including the savings tied to the efficiency improvements and the automation improvements, $1 million through the Green Communities Act, right? This is the justification for the investment in the climate action plan, is to get in the door for the next round of that funding through the climate leader plan. Among other, we all know in our hearts why we want to pursue a climate action plan. And if we had a different makeup on the leadership, we could make that argument too. But there are a lot of different arguments, some of which are hard to refute, about why this makes sense for this town to do. And there's going to be pushback as well, and we'll be ready to respond to that. Because that's what the point of this exercise was for 2023, that we were approved to do. Go explore what it means, what it takes, how much, what the process looks like, who else has done it, what the costs and the benefits are. And I think we're very close. Like, this is our last piece of information. The subcommittee has done a great job. Okay. Woo, that was a lot of hard work on this call. That was great. But thank you, subcommittee, for pulling that together and giving us such a great starting point. Okay. Priorities for 2024. We weren't going to have time to discuss that in detail, except to say we need to start thinking about our priorities for 2024. So in our December meeting, what we'll do is review what we did in 2023 and the status, because we're going to need to give a status update to the select board. And then we'll also start identifying the priorities for 2024. Okay. But that'll be in our December meeting. Do we have a data report on the solar energy array and charging stations?
Yeah. You see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's the data report. One thing I've noticed. Wait, is this?
That's not right.
Oh, no, sorry. I was bringing that up for. I was going to show you something because I noticed. We've seen. One thing I've noticed here is that there's been a decline in production, and maybe this is outside of any technical issues. But if you notice, like production in that far left column, kilowatts per hour, right? 2018, 614, 632. And here we are, we got 2 months to go, probably, 30K a month. I mean, we're probably going to end about 475. There's been a significant decline in production from this array, and it's only been, 5 years. The good news is that the money that we're getting because of the rate is has gone up. So, we're going to have the best year ever of, financial gains from the array, but that's just because the high cost of gas. Any,
So
Hmm.
can we get an action item? I don't know, Ginny, if this is your action item, or I guess put on my action item. The contract that we have, the power purchase agreement that we have with Palmer, has guaranteed minimum production levels, and they decline over time. So the degradation was expected. The question is, have we dipped below the guaranteed amounts? And we just, in managing this contract, need to review that.
any other questions on this? The other thing was just yeah, it's right here. So I think you can see here that the charging has, charging people to use the chargers has definitely affected usage, and you can see the decline from September to October, and just the number of unique drivers is down. So that's basically the gist of it. We use 323. I mean, you see it just totally decline. In September, it's like half of September and a third of August and July. That's pretty much it.
It's a pretty dramatic price elasticity of demand. That's interesting. Well, part of our exercise was understanding what the demand response was to pricing. So this is good to know. All right, thanks, Josh. Any questions for Josh? All right, marketing and social media.
There's nothing, unless anybody has anything that they'd like to promote. I mean, I think we kind of have talked about this a little bit, but the focus is going to be the big effort around the survey. Will be the next push.
I think that's right. Okay, let's go back to leadership positions. So we talked about this at the last meeting. We talked about the role Martha offered to be secretary. If Debbie was interested in being vice chair, there was, in a very flattering way, it seemed people were interested in having me continue to be chair, but again, totally open. So let's open the floor to discussion. It's now 10:39, but I think maybe we can make short order of this. But if there's a longer discussion, we can also postpone it to the next meeting. So it is with a full committee, and unfortunately Chris isn't here, but we do have a full committee. And Barbara, you have voting rights since Chris isn't here. What do we want to do for the next year?
One question on the secretary role. Will I be able to access the recordings of the meetings in order to take the minutes?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Good.
they are very helpful.
Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of this is new to me, so that would be really helpful. Okay, thanks.
Debbie, are you interested in being the vice chair?
I would be happy to be vice chair, with the caveat that I will be gone for several weeks this winter. I think yes, with that caveat. So if we can work around that, and I do travel periodically, but I would be happy to be.
Yay! That's excellent. All right, so I guess I don't know if we have to do I guess we do have to do a vote. So do we want to vote on a slate or do it one by one? If we want to do a slate, and unless there's anything else, again, I'm working off of the conversation from last meeting. The slate seems to be Martha as secretary, Debbie as vice chair, and myself as chair. So we can either go position by position or just put forward a slate, but we would need a motion to approve so-and-so for this position or to go forward with the slate. Steve,
Motion to approve the slate.
Steve, you're on mute.
All right.
I was going to say second.
Oh, did you just say second, Steve?
I'm never going to use my iPad again for these meetings.
Good idea.
I'm using an iPad. I can tell you how to do it, Steve.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion from Josh to approve the slate of Martha as secretary, Debbie as vice chair, myself as chair. That's been seconded by Tom. Is there any discussion? All right, if we could do a roll call vote where you say your name and how you vote.
Josh Dotton, aye.
Tom Daly, aye.
Steve Winter, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Martha again, Jimmy, I.
Barbara, you're on mute, but I'll say Tanya Bodell, aye.
Barbara Russell, aye.
Okay, slate's been approved unanimously. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. This is great. Is there any matter not reasonably known in advance? It's time to go to bed. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ginny, for managing the meeting and giving us your updates. Thank you to everybody for the amazing conversation and discussion. I think we're in a very good place. I'll send around the updated one pager to the subcommittee, and then you'll work your magic and we'll move it. But I'll put a ping out to Michelle and Chris that this is something we want to do an ask on, and that we'll have a draft ready for them to review.
Cool.
All right, making
Thank you.
progress step by step. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
And our
Good
next
night.
meeting is the second Thursday in December. Oh, and don't forget, I'll send this around to everybody. Rent is on November 30th at 7, December 1st at 7, and December 2nd at 4. So I'll send that around as well.
Yes.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
back.
you.
Good night.
Bye.